Chapter 777. Lin Yuan sucked in a breath of cold air and stared dumbfoundedly at the spiritual ingredients scattered all over the ground because the workbench had turned into smoke powder. The jasmine lily and the blue flash purple butterfly, which had been sleeping soundly on the jasmine lily's bud of mountain jade and had yet to figure out what was going on. Lin Yuan quickly cleaned up the mess on the ground. He planned to ask Hu Quan to make a sturdier workbench after going out. At the same time, Lin Yuan's thoughts were surging violently. Putting aside whether the Spirit-Tide Black's exclusive skill, Spirit Purity Burst, was strong or not. Just the effect of Spirit Purity Burst on Lin Yuan was equivalent to making him no longer a Spirit Chi professional who had to constantly pay attention to his life on the battlefield. Instead, he was a humanoid fae that could strike a fierce blow at a critical moment. This was a real trump card for Lin Yuan. This trump card might be able to play an unexpected role at a critical moment. At the same time, this trump card also greatly increased Lin Yuan's tolerance for mistakes in battle. When nurturing the Source Sand, Lin Yuan had mainly developed the Source Sand's defense. Finally, in the process of strengthening the defense, due to the Source Sand's uniqueness as an elemental source-type life form, the Source Sand had become a link. It allowed the Source Sand to become a link that allowed Lin Yuan's various phases to effectively link up. Now, with Spirit Purity Burst, as a Spirit Chi professional, Lin Yuan could also become an important member of the linkage. Just now, Lin Yuan had used such a small amount of Spirit Chi to strike, and it could cause such damage. If Lin Yuan mobilized the huge amount of Spirit Chi in the Spirit Chi imprint and let it all gather on his fist, then he would punch it out. Lin Yuan was not sure what kind of lethality it could have. However, based on the power of that blow, Lin Yuan felt that he was very likely to blast an entire mountain into smoke powder. With that thought, Lin Yuan scratched his head awkwardly. I seem to be a little too arrogant. However, through this incident, Lin Yuan deeply understood a sentence that his master, the Moon Empress, always mentioned during the question and answer exercise: Spirit Chi is the root of everything. What did it mean? This wasn't just the comprehension of a Class 5 Creation Master's Creation Master ability that was above the clouds. It could be applied to the entire Spirit Chi awakening world. A wisp of weak, nourishing Spirit Chi could also transform into a ferocious beast that could crush everything. The Spirit Tide Ink Flood Dragon's exclusive skill, Spirit Essence Burst, was executed by Lin Yuan. Others would probably feel that Lin Yuan had a strange power. As a Spirit Chi professional, there was probably no one who didn't want to fight alongside their fays and not stand behind them and give orders. However, Lin Yuan, who thought he was righteous but was considered inattributed by the mother of bloodbath, naturally liked the feeling of fighting alongside fays. However, he wanted to treat it as a life-saving trump card. Lin Yuan silently decided that even if he used the Spirit Herb Burst, he would not let others know of his confidence. Lin Yuan was now left with 39 Spirit Chi crystals. It wasn't enough for the Fantasy Breed Blackie and the soon-to-be Fantasy Breed Genius to advance to the gold grade. Furthermore, he had also reached a deal with the Dew Immortal Garden. He wanted to use a Bronze/Legend Fae to exchange for the complete Dew Immortal Garden's Law Crystal. Any complete Law Crystal had an unparalleled attraction to him. The Sacred Source life form, the Sacred Sword Embracing Princess, was there. Moreover, Lin Yuan wanted to make his faction stronger. He also needed to let the princess condense more crystals that contained pure power of laws. It could be said that the princess skirt was now dominated by these three complete laws. The remaining fragmented and incomplete laws played a supporting role, and together, they constructed a world that belonged to Luo Kun. Lin Yuan wanted to see what kind of changes would happen if the princess's skirt had more complete laws. To what extent could the princess skirt raise these complete laws through the law source crystals? This was also related to Lin Yuan's strength. He could use the princess's skirts to exert the power of absorbing the laws in those princess's skirts. Lin Yuan was about to go to the Divine Wood Federation. He had also recently read some information about the Divine Wood Federation. The Divine Wood Federation was a federation that worshipped high-level lifeforms. His method, which seemed to only be able to be used as currency, could be converted into actual value in the Divine Wood Federation if used properly. Therefore, in addition to promoting Blackine genius, Lin Yuan had to reserve more spirit chi crystals to nurture phase, even in case of emergencies. After thinking for a while, Lin Yuan made a choice. Lin Yuan decided that no matter how scarce the spirit chi crystals were, he had to evolve the spirit tide Inky into a gold/fantasy breed first. Although Lin Yuan did not know what kind of changes genius would have after evolving into a fantasy breed, the spirit tide Inky could increase the speed of gathering spirit chi in the spirit chi imprint. It was enough for Lin Yuan to evolve the spirit tide Inky without hesitation. Lin Yuan took the 20 spirit chi crystals and crushed them. He guided the energy in the spirit chi crystals to Blackie. As the spirit tide Inky could mobilize spiritual power, it could control the spirit chi in a certain range. The spirit tide Inky flood dragon, Blackie, absorbed the spirit chi in the 20 spirit crystals as it circled around. Under the immense spiritual energy, the spirit tide Inky black flood dragon let out a noble and elegant dragon roar. Its body expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. During the expansion process, the black scales with dark gold edges slowly lost their luster and finally peeled off. It revealed the new black scales that were like black crystals. The new ink-colored scale armor was already slightly different from the previous one. Each of the new scales had 2 dark gold dragon patterns on the edge, making them look abnormally noble. However, when Lin Yuan saw Blackie's changes, he got a headache. Blackie, which had just evolved from Bronze X to Silver Eye, had doubled in size and was over 6 meters long. Moreover, with every grade increase, Blackie's body would grow a little. The Silver X/Fantasy Eye Blackie's body was already 9 meters long. Lin Yuan quickly moved Blackie out of the Spirit Lock spatial zone. When a dragon species phase grade increased, there was a constant characteristic. Be it a dinosaur species Fey or a WYRM species Fey, their body would only grow and not shrink. Lin Yuan was really afraid that Blackie, which was already 9 meters long, would rapidly expand after reaching gold and destroy everything that Lin Yuan had meticulously set up in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. It might even affect the hatching floating island whale and the evolving truth sky cloudy crane. When Lin Yuan summoned the evolved Blackie to the room outside the Spirit Lock spatial zone, Blackie swung its tail and smashed Lin Yuan's big bed into pieces. The second was even worse. End of this chapter. Chapter 778. Although Blackie had become a purebred flood dragon, it still experienced molting time and time again during the evolution process. Through the contract with Blackie, Lin Yuan could feel that Blackie was about to go crazy from the extreme itch caused by the molting. Therefore, Blackie needed to be released. As a result, the Reflection Sun King Lotus on the ground, which had caused an accident in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, suffered a disaster. After being ruthlessly whipped by Little Black's tail, many of the leaves on the Heaven and Earth Spirit Reflecting Sun King Lotus were broken. Lin Yuan hurriedly picked up the Reflection Sun King Lotus, which had been unusually pitiful. Previously, because he had been worried about the situation in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan had not cared about what had happened to the Reflection Sun King Lotus. Now that he looked at it, Lin Yuan's face revealed the same surprised expression as when he had seen Blackie transform into a purebred flood dragon. However, Lin Yuan had already planned to go to the store's fan club to settle the score with Master Duanli later. It turned out that this Reflection Sun King Lotus had been split by Master Duanli during the transaction. The twin red pagoda in Lin Yuan's hands was an example. As a Heaven and Earth Fae, the twin red pagoda in Lin Yuan's hands had twins. In order to save a portion of the resources, Master Duanli had secretly separated the twin red pagoda's secondary flower from the main flower. She had kept the secondary flower and given the main flower to Lin Yuan as a collateral. Lin Yuan had not carefully examined the original Reflection Sun King Lotus, so he did not know that it had been split. He had thrown the Reflection Sun King Lotus in the Spirit Lock spatial zone's spirit pool to nurture. Since Lin Yuan had not been in a hurry to deal with the manor's artificial lake, he had almost forgotten about the Reflection Sun King Lotus in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. When the Reflection Sun King Lotus, which had been secretly recuperating in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, was about to recover, it had been nourished by the Spirit Lock spatial zone's huge and pure spirit chi. The Reflection Sun King Lotus actually wanted to try to grow back its split head. Coincidentally, the Reflection Sun King Lotus, which was essentially a succulent plant, had actually mutated in groups when it grew out its head. Lin Yuan counted carefully and found that there were actually 99 young Reflection Sun King Lotuses on the newly grown lotus head. Now, Lin Yuan finally knew why the Reflection Sun King Lotus could absorb all the spirit chi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. These were 99 young heaven and earth fays that were waiting to be fed and urgently needed the nourishment of spirit chi. Lin Yuan slapped his thigh and looked at the small heads that had grown out of the Reflection Sun King Lotus. He could not help but shout in his heart. Lin Yuan stored the Reflection Sun King Lotus back into the Fey storage box as though it was a treasure. Lin Yuan did not immediately deal with the King Black Sun King. And Blackie, who had just reached Gold Eye/Fantasy Eye, had successfully destroyed Lin Yuan's room. Due to the broken water pipe in the bathroom, underground water was still gushing out of the bathroom. Lin had Black and was and Li and Mu, Black. And had and Yun had and Black and had was and Black was and the mother of Bloodbath could not understand. It had been a very ordinary spirit-gather goldfish that had only awakened a trace of dragon species bloodline. How did Lin Yuan nurture a spirit-gather goldfish that had awakened a trace of bloodline into a flood dragon species fey with such a pure bloodline? As a fey, the mother of Bloodbath had evolved step by step from an ordinary fey to its current level. It naturally understood the hardships of a fey's bloodline evolution. Moreover, it was relatively easy to awaken the bloodline, but it was extremely difficult to purify the bloodline of a dragon species fey. With such a pure flood dragon species bloodline, the mother of Bloodbath could almost conclude that Black had the possibility of becoming a main dragon species. Before the mother of Bloodbath could lament more about Black's bloodline's smell, it felt a kind of convergence and inclusive willpower from Black. Sensing this willpower, the mother of Bloodbath drank the tea in the teacup in one gulp. It turned into the mother of lemons again and started to feel sour. Black's advancement to a fantasy breed meant that Lin Yuan had comprehended at least one willpower rune during this period. How many willpower runes had he comprehended? Even after the new year, Lin Yuan was only a 19-year-old youth. With a noble and elegant dragon roar, Black completely became a Gold Eye/Fantasy Eye fey. However, Black's dragon roar sounded more like an evil dragon's roar to Lin Yuan's ears. After looking at the environment in the room, Lin Yuan knew that he should sleep in the guest room tonight. Even if there was a Class 5 spirit craftsman like Hu Quan in the mansion, he would probably not be able to restore his destroyed room in one afternoon. After successfully advancing, Black subconsciously raised its head and hit the roof of the house. There was a loud duong sound. Lin Yuan's brows twitched wildly when he heard this loud sound. Fortunately, when Wen Yu had commanded the Class 4 architect team to build this old mansion, she had mixed a lot of platinum tungsten steel into the walls. Otherwise, Black's head would have probably appeared in the cultivation room on the 3rd floor after being hit by the roof. Black was now Gold Eye/Fantasy Eye, and its body length had reached 18 meters. Among Lin Yuan's many fays, it could already be considered a behemoth. Lin Yuan had previously looked up a lot of information on flood dragon species fays on StarWeb. It had to be said that Black's appearance was definitely at the top among flood dragon species fays. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw Little Darkness's golden dragon eyes sweeping around as if it was looking for something. Finally, it landed on Lin Yuan. Then, Lin Yuan heard Black's voice as gentle as water. "Master, why did you become smaller again? You've really become very, very small this time. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan stretched out his fingers and rubbed his temples. Black, this female flood dragon, was a tendon hammer. After saying that, Black's body immediately coiled up. Its 2-meter-long dragon head gently moved to Lin Yuan's side and shook its flying ink-colored mane. It seemed to want to rub against Lin Yuan with its dragon head, but when it saw Lin Yuan's small physique, it gave up its original intention. Master, Black will take you for a ride. Lin Yuan was slightly startled. He suddenly recalled that after Blackie had become a fantasy breed in the spirit-lock spatial zone, it had been twisting its body and hovering in the air. Lin Yuan asked as he looked at Little Darkness' golden eyes. Little Black, you can fly in the sky? When Blackie heard Lin Yuan's question, it replied as a matter of course. Of course. As long as there is spiritual chi, be it in the sky or in the water, Blackie can fly. He just got off work. I'll make up for yesterday's third update, and tonight's third update will be posted a little later. Tonight, I must write about the evolution of intelligence, sob sob sob. End of chapter. Chapter 779. At that moment, Lin Yuan waved at Silver Splendor, which was flying in the air, and exhaled the turbid air in his chest. Yin Hua, come here. When Yin Hua heard Lin Yuan calling her, she hurriedly flew in front of Lin Yuan. Looking at Lin Yuan's tall nose, Yin Hua stretched out her small hand to support his nose and looked into his eyes at the tip of his nose. Lin Yuan looked at the silver brilliance in front of him and could not help but reveal a sunny smile. Then, he waved his hand and summoned a large number of coral jades in the spirit-lock spatial zone. Yin Hua, go take a look at these coral jades. Pick out any coral jades that can increase your insect patterns. When Yin Hua heard that, she subconsciously rubbed her face against Lin Yuan's nose bridge and said coldly and shyly. Master, you are so good to me. Soon after, Yin Hua's coral crown glowed with a misty colorful light, and 7 or 8 colorful lotus flowers grew out from her silver hair. The petals of these 7-colored lotus flowers were like fingers picking up the large patches of coral jade on the ground. On the other hand, Silver Splendor's lotus revealed a peaceful smile. The smile was warm, clear, and pure. It was impossible to tell that Silver Flower was a fae born to kill. While Lin Yuan was happy to obtain the silver essence, he also felt a little heavy. In essence, the Silver Flower was now equivalent to Lin Yuan's contracted fae. Lin Yuan was naturally delighted by Silver Splendor's strength, but Silver Splendor's power also shocked him. Silver Splendor's ability was considered destructive even among carcinoma faes, and it could be said to be the king of all carcinoma faes. If Yin Hua unscrupulously released her power, it would soon become an uncontrollable disaster. In Lin Yuan's opinion, Silver Splendor's power was no different from a sacred source life form. There was no way the silver essence could compare to a sacred source life form in terms of functionality. However, in terms of increasing the deterrence of war, the Silver Splendor was enough to cause panic in any faction or even in the entire continent. Now that this power was in his hands, he could not help but clench his fists. However, when he thought of Chu Ci, his master, the Moon Empress, Auntie Zhang, Uncle Li, the people in the Return from Faraway Manor, and even the entire Radiance Federation, the heaviness in Lin Yuan's heart disappeared and was replaced by a belief in grasping power. Apart from killing and deterring, power could also protect. What Lin Yuan needed was the power to protect himself. Silver Flower's current ability was already so powerful at bronze, so Lin Yuan could not imagine what it would be like after it became a myth breed. Furthermore, after Silver Flower became a fairy source-type life form, her grade and quality were completely different from before. The sea burial lotus flower could still absorb pure spirit chi to condense sobbing sea crystals, but the sobbing sea crystals would no longer affect the grade and quality of the Silver Splendor. The sea burial lotus flower's main body's sobbing sea crystal could only be considered an instinct. Currently, Silver Splendor and Red Thorn were very similar in terms of rank and quality. However, Red Thorn needed to devour flesh to level up. On the other hand, silver splendor absorbed the souls of the living to increase its rank and quality. After returning from the Radiant Moon Palace last time, he had been able to let the ethereal jellyfish activate its tentacles to open a spatial tunnel connecting to the Divine Wood Federation. However, as the underground space had not been completed, and the Nyx assembly was just around the corner, he did not have the time to immediately set off for the Divine Wood Federation to train. Lin Yuan felt that after he connected the spatial tunnel, he still needed to use the ethereal jellyfish's tentacles to find a suitable place again. After all, the place that Mystic Moon had chosen for him could not be an area with a large number of low-grade dimensional rifts. In order for Silver Flower to quickly nurture the 36 hidden undead servants, Lin Yuan could not think of any better way than to rely on the dimensional lifeforms that gushed out of the dimensional rifts. Silver Flower quickly finished picking the coral jades. Then, Lin Yuan spread the coral jades that Silver Flower had selected on the open space in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Then, he took out a large batch of coral jades for Yin Hua to search for. Coral jades with insect patterns could increase Yin Hua's combat ability. Since the coral jades with insect patterns could increase Silver Flower's combat ability, Lin Yuan could make appropriate adjustments to the Spirit Lock spatial zone's location and make more space available for nurturing the coral jades. Ever since Silver Flower hatched, Jin Se had been a little timid. In the face of absolute bloodline suppression, even if Silver Flower showed goodwill to Jin Se still did not dare to have the slightest overstep. Lin Yuan waved his hand at Jin Se to let it land on his palm and said to Jin Se, how many child ramets can you nurture with your exclusive skill? When Jin Se heard this, he obediently extended a finger. Lin Yuan's brows twitched wildly as he asked in disbelief. 1. Jin Se shook his head. Lin Yuan guessed again. 10. Jin Se still shook his head. Jin Se's shake of the head allowed Lin Yuan to calm down, and Lin Yuan's tone also relaxed. 100. Jin Se still shook his head. Just as Lin Yuan was about to delightfully guess more things, he heard Jin Se say obediently, "You're right." Master, Jin Se extended a finger, meaning to continue nurturing. Jin Se can cultivate as many child saplings as he wants. After all, the child stalks are Jin Se's snacks. Jin Se inhaled a breath of the pure spirit chi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. There's so much spirit chi here for Jin Se to absorb. Jin Se doesn't even want to eat those snacks. They're not tasty. Lin Yuan looked at Jin Se with astonishment. He didn't expect that Jin Se would actually describe the golden lotus brocade beads as a snack. As for the continuous nurturing that Jin Se mentioned, Lin Yuan really didn't know what to say. Lin Yuan knew that Jin Se had misunderstood his meaning, so he asked Jin Se in a different way. Jin Se, how long would it take for you to cultivate a child rameter that can leave your control? Jin Se extended a finger again and said, about an hour and a half. Just nurturing the snacks until they leave my control, and Jin Se won't be able to eat them. Lin Yuan reached out and gently pinched Jin Se's little face. You little fool, with the spirit chi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, why are you still thinking about eating those tasteless snacks? Jin Se, help me cultivate some child rameters. The child rameters you cultivate are very useful to me. When Jin Se heard this, he nodded with a very happy expression. When Jin Se had transformed into a fairy source-type life form and hatched, he already had a very high level of intelligence. When he saw Lin Yuan, he treated Lin Yuan as his father and had a very strong attachment to Lin Yuan. However, before Jin Southeast could get close to Lin Yuan, Silver Flower hatched. Silver Flower was born with 6 wings, while Jin Se was born with 2 wings. This caused Jin Se to have a bone-deep fear of Silver Flower. This caused Jin Se to suddenly develop a feeling of inferiority. The second was even worse. End of this chapter. Chapter 780. At that moment, Chimey was holding a cane loofah in its mouth as it chattered. Smart, just treat this little melon as red braised pork and eat more. When the time comes, I will have more strength. Genius' snow-white belly was obviously bloated, but it could not bear to reject Chimey. It extended its small claws and grabbed the cane loofah that Chimey was holding in its mouth. Then, it started to chomp on it. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan clenched his fists tightly. Although this evolution was a smart evolution, it was more like a test at the crossroads of life for Lin Yuan. If Genius evolution failed, even if Lin Yuan used a lot of money to buy all the 100 questions beasts in the world and nurture them one by one, Genius would never be able to evolve. He had trained those 100 questions beasts to be intelligent. By choosing the 100 questions beast, which had the same personality as Genius, it would be able to experience everything that Lin Yuan and Genius had experienced. He had obtained a 100 questions beast that could replace Genius, but this 100 questions beast wasn't the Genius that Lin Yuan had relied on when it was weak. Therefore, even if he had to do his best, he had to ensure that Genius could successfully evolve. When Chimey and Genius saw that Lin Yuan had returned to the Spirit Lock spatial zone, it flapped its wings and flew to Lin Yuan's ear. Chimey was very worried about Genius' situation and wanted to gain some confidence from Lin Yuan. However, when Chimey saw Lin Yuan's expression, it calmed down. He did not want to increase Lin Yuan's burden because of his worries. Genius strode resolutely to Lin Yuan's leg and spoke in a childish voice. "Lin Yuan, Genius is ready." Lin Yuan looked deeply at Genius and gritted his teeth as he spoke in an abnormally solemn tone. "Go, Songming. I'll stay here with you." After saying that, he summoned the willpower rune that contained infinite knowledge and wisdom. When Genius saw Lin Yuan summoning the willpower rune, it immediately stomped its hind legs. Without Lin Yuan's guidance, it took the initiative to pounce on this law rune that contained knowledge and wisdom. After fusing with the willpower rune, Genius landed on the ground. Its body glowed with a faint luster, making Genius' fur look softer and its blue eyes brighter. Genius shook its little head and looked at Lin Yuan and Chimey with a doubtful and childish voice. "Lin Yuan, Songming doesn't hurt." Before Genius could finish its sentence, the three tails behind it exploded into a bloody mist. Immediately after, Genius' snow-white fur spewed out a layer of bright red blood mist, as if something had exploded in Genius' body. Genius had already made a decision. No matter how painful it is, I have to endure it and not scream out. I don't want Lin Yuan and Chimey to worry. But because he had relaxed a little, he had suffered such a serious injury. It couldn't help but let out a mournful meow. When looking at Genius' current appearance, Lin Yuan's eyes turned blood red. Lin Yuan activated Morbius' exclusive skill, Pure Land of Bliss, and its radiance enveloped Genius, helping Genius heal its damaged roots. He then ordered the Platinum Eye/Fantasy 3 Jasmine Lily to use the bud of Mountain Jade to heal Genius. The weakest part of a feline fae was its tail. It was an extremely unbearable pain for feline faes to have their tails gently pulled. However, Genius's three tails exploded on its body. As the blood mist spewed out from Genius' body, Genius' originally white and soft fur was also stained with blood. Through the contract with Genius, Lin Yuan could feel a portion of Genius' pain. When Lin Yuan slightly experienced this pain, he felt that every hair on his body was trembling. However, all of this was just the beginning for Genius. After Genius let out the first scream, it used its willpower to suppress the scream in its throat. It only let out a gulp, gulp, gulp sound like a bellow. Upon seeing that Genius was trying its best to endure, Lin Yuan couldn't help but yell at Genius. "Genius, cry out if it hurts. Don't endure it." Chimey, which had always been the noisiest in Lin Yuan's ears, was now the quietest. However, Chimey's nimble bird eyes were staring at Genius, and the fur beside its eyes had become a little moist. When Genius heard Lin Yuan's yell, it stopped enduring and let out a miserable scream. Genius' evolution was different from Chimey's evolution. Chimey was evolving its bloodline. Even if Chimey's body was crushed, with the power of its bloodline, Chimey's body wouldn't collapse. Even if Chimey lost consciousness, its evolution would continue. However, this wasn't the case for Genius. Lin Yuan realized that genius didn't stimulate its bloodline during the process of evolving into a fantasy breed. Instead, it was constantly strengthening genius' spiritual energy. The strengthening of spiritual energy allowed genius to constantly maintain a clear-headed state. In fact, during the process of strengthening spiritual energy, genius' spiritual energy would become even more sensitive, which would increase the pain that genius felt. Through the contract, Lin Yuan could sense that genius' injuries were constantly worsening, so he didn't hesitate to open his vitality imprint and spirit chi imprint. Since genius' bloodline wasn't strengthened, its physique wasn't strengthened either. Lin Yuan had to ensure that the Jasmine Lily's Heal and Morbius exclusive skill, Pure Land of Bliss, could replenish the vitality in genius' body. If genius was a bucket that was constantly leaking water, Lin Yuan would be a faucet that was constantly pouring water. Even if he couldn't keep genius's bucket at a full state, he must not let the water in genius's bucket run dry. Once the water ran dry, genius would die. Gradually, genius evolution into a fantasy breed became a tug-of-war. Lin Yuan could sense that genius' spiritual energy was improving qualitatively with every passing second. However, Lin Yuan couldn't feel happy at all. During these 2 hours, in order to maintain genius vitality, Lin Yuan had already made the Jasmine Lily operate at maximum horsepower. Even though the spirit chi in Lin Yuan's spirit chi imprint was still sufficient, the vitality energy in the vitality imprint was almost depleted. This made Lin Yuan anxious. The Jasmine Lily's healing of genius couldn't stop. Once it stopped, all previous efforts would be wasted. What Lin Yuan needed to do now was to replenish the vitality energy in the vitality imprint. Upon seeing Lin Yuan's expression, Chimey couldn't help but ask, "Lin Yuan, your brows are knitted even tighter. Lin Yuan, you're frowning even more. Isn't it bad to be smart?" Lin Yuan replied, "The vitality energy in the vitality imprint isn't enough." Lin Yuan replied, "The vitality energy in the vitality imprint isn't enough." Second update. First update. Try to release it at 12 p.m. sharp. End of this chapter. Chapter 781. After speaking, Lin Yuan was prepared to give an order to the Jasmine Lily. He ordered the Jasmine Lily to use its main flower to perform heal on itself and extract vitality from its body to store it in the spirit chi imprint. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw Chimey flying. First, he cast Sunlight Ray on the Jasmine Lily, increasing its vitality. Then, Chimey let out an extremely beautiful chirp. After that, it turned from a blue bird into a swan with golden feathers and a long tail. As it flapped its wings, a sun wheel was set up on the stars between its wings. Chimey said to Lin Yuan anxiously, "Lin Yuan, extract the vitality from my body." Upon hearing Chimey's words, Lin Yuan knew that it was using the gold absolute melody, Nirvana melody. At that moment, Chimey was burning all the vitality in its body and only retained a trace of vitality in the sun wheel that rose from its wings. However, Chimey did not convert the burning vitality into sunlight energy. Instead, it allowed the burning vitality to appear on the surface of its body. After using the absolute melody, Nirvana melody, the burning vitality would quickly dissipate if it was not used in time. Lin Yuan naturally would not let down Chimey's affection for genius. He immediately gave an order to the Jasmine Lily. "Jasmine Lily, use the crystallization main flower to perform heal on Chimey." When the Jasmine Lily heard Lin Yuan's command, a red energy beam landed on Chimey's body. A large amount of vitality was extracted from Chimey's body, and Lin Yuan could feel the vitality in the spirit chi imprint on his forehead constantly increasing. Soon, the Platinum I/Fantasy 3 Jasmine Lily extracted all the vitality from Chimey's body. Lin Yuan commanded the Jasmine Lily to continue to extract vitality from Chimey's body and pour it into Genius's body. When the Jasmine Lily used the crystallization main flower to perform heal, it had no limits. Lin Yuan was unable to determine how much vitality the Jasmine Lily was extracting from reverse heal. Thanks to Chimey's absolute melody, Nirvana melody was able to retain a trace of vitality. Otherwise, if the jasmine lily was allowed to absorb the vitality of other fays without any scruples, it might take the other fays' lives. Chimey had already recovered from the extreme bliss of reverse heal. The sun will on his back shattered, turning into a handful of starlight that scattered into Chimey's body. Only then did it stop Chimey's falling body. Chimey flapped its wings weakly and floated in the air. Then, it used light cleansing to recover its lost vitality. At the same time, Chimey, which had just recovered a little of its energy, said firmly to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan, give me 5 minutes, and bathing light will be able to replenish more than half of the life force in my body. At that time, I'll be able to use the absolute nirvana sound skill again. Then you will extract the life force from my body and give it to Genius. When Lin Yuan heard the emotions in Chimey's words, he knew that Chimey did not care about the impact of continuously using the gold ultimate melody, Nirvana melody, on its roots. Lin Yuan couldn't help but think of the 3 good-for-nothings in the Xia region's Fey store, who would stick together no matter what. Eat together, work together, shower together, sleep together. They depended on each other to face the bitterness of life together. But no matter how many difficulties there were, life was still difficult. As long as the 3 good-for-nothings leaned against each other and slept together, the next day, the world would still be spring, bright and tranquil. Not only did this feeling not change, but it had also become even more sincere. Once a contract was formed between a Fey and a contractor, they would be the most intimate partners. However, it wasn't the case between the contractor's contracted Fays. There were plenty of times when a contractor's contracted Fays developed spirit intelligence, and there would be discord between them. However, it wouldn't be a big deal if a spirit chi professional mediated, and there wouldn't be much of an impact. Take Blackie as an example. If Blackie was here, Lin Yuan wouldn't need to seek its consent and could let the jasmine lily extract its vitality. However, if Lin Yuan were to ask Blackie for its opinion, it would mean that it wasn't for itself but for Genius. Little Black might not be willing to do that. However, Chimey's current actions were the same as using its own life to save Genius' life. This meant that in Chimey's world, Genius was at least equal to its own life. It was even more important than its own life. Not long after Chimey's voice faded away, the bloody tug-of-war fortunately came to an end with a meow from Genius. Lin Yuan felt Genius' aura suddenly change. Genius' bloody body might be in a sorry state, but it was emitting a mystical aura that belonged to Genius. Lin Yuan noticed that Genius' blue eyes were even more penetrating than before. Through those blue eyes, Lin Yuan felt as though he could vaguely see the truth of the world. Genius was currently shaking its bloody fur. These bloody hairs fell off Genius' body as it swung its body. It revealed a layer of fur that was as delicate and soft as milk. After the bloody fur fell off, Genius' body's mystical aura instantly reached its peak. 4 fluffy tails grew out from Genius' back in the blink of an eye. As he looked at the 4 new tails behind Genius, Lin Yuan suddenly felt that they were more like cats' tails. It was more like a fox's tail. After Genius evolved, its body didn't grow bigger and was still the size of a kitten. However, the long tails on its back were as long as 2 of Genius's bodies. Genius shook off the last bit of blood on its body and leaped into Lin Yuan's embrace. Lin Yuan caught Genius and hugged it tightly. Chimey dragged its weak body to Lin Yuan's arm and used its hands to peck at it. Lin Yuan's arm relaxed slightly, and Chimey used its strength to burrow between Lin Yuan's arm and Genius. Only a small head could be seen, and the feathers on the head were sticking up. Chimey gently closed its eyes. The water vapor on the feathers near its eyes had yet to dry. But there was an indescribable sense of happiness in the bird's eyes. Genius laid in Lin Yuan's embrace and felt that the unforgettable memory that was engraved in its mind was soothed by the pain that caused its entire body to tremble. To Genius, wherever Lin Yuan was, it was home. Lin Yuan's embrace was the warmest place in the world. Genius said softly in Lin Yuan's embrace. Lin Yuan, after Genius evolved, it can no longer remember as many as 30 pieces of red braised meat. Genius can now remember all the red braised meat in the world. Lin Yuan's lips curled up. Genius was still the little foodie that could describe everything as red braised meat. Lin Yuan subconsciously lowered his head to look at Genius, but when he saw Genius, his eyes immediately turned sluggish. Genius's name was no longer the 100 Questions Beast but the Interconnected Beast. However, Genius's name wasn't what shocked and sluggish Lin Yuan. It was Genius's exclusive skill after evolving into a fantasy breed. Previously, Lin Yuan's most precious strategic resource was the floating island whale that had yet to hatch from its crystal eggshell. Now that Genius had evolved into the Interconnected Beast, the strategic significance of its new exclusive skill was on par with the floating island whale. Third, I got off work at 6:30 p.m. and sat until 12 o'clock p.m. without lifting my butt. If everyone likes to watch it, please give button more monthly votes and recommendation votes. Please support button. I love you. Boo-hoo, button is going to sleep. I'm so sleepy. Good night, everyone. Sweet dreams. End of this chapter. Chapter 782. Just as Lin Yuan was lamenting the strategic significance of Genius' new exclusive skill after becoming a fantasy breed, Genius' childish voice continued to speak. Lin Yuan, Genius can now not only remember the world's red braised pork. Moreover, as long as the red braised pork in the world is placed in front of Genius, it will be able to finish it very quickly. Upon hearing Genius' words, Lin Yuan let go of Genius. Lin Yuan placed Genius on his shoulder and was about to scratch Genius' little nose. He realized that Chimey had fallen asleep in the crook of his arm. Not only had Chimey used its gold skill, Nirvana Sound, but it had also been in a tense state during the few hours of tug-of-war that Genius had experienced to evolve into a fantasy breed. Chimey was indeed tired. At that moment, Chimey's mind relaxed. As its body was too weak, it entered a deep slumber. Lin Yuan gently held Chimey in his palm and placed it on Genius' back. He then stretched out his hand and scratched the tip of Genius' nose. Smart, you have to thank Chimey for successfully advancing into a fantasy breed. When Lin Yuan placed Chimey on Genius' back, Genius used its 4 huge and fluffy tails to gently cover Chimey's body. During the process of evolution, Genius' mental power was always in a clear state, so it could naturally remember everything that happened. Genius said to Lin Yuan with a slightly dejected tone. But even after Genius evolved, it still couldn't protect Chimey. As Genius spoke, Lin Yuan sensed a massive and pure spiritual energy condensing in Genius' crystal-clear blue eyes. Genius gently waved its little claws, and 2 hands condensed from mental strength condensed beside Genius. It trembled as it lifted an aquamarine elemental shellfish that was producing elemental pearls. The aquamarine elemental shellfish was so frightened that it immediately closed its shell. Coincidentally, an elemental pearl that rolled out got stuck in the middle of the shell and made a crisp sound. Genius hurriedly placed the aquamarine elemental shellfish back to its original position. Lin Yuan, Genius doesn't seem to have become very powerful after evolving. It still can't help Lin Yuan fight the bad guys. When Genius spoke, there was a hint of sorrow on its face. Genius looked at its snow-white claws and the pink pads on its palms, feeling depressed about how weak it was when it was advancing into a fantasy breed. Lin Yuan was shocked by the smart operation, or rather, the smart operation shocked him once again. Genius' use of spiritual energy could be said to have subverted his understanding of spiritual energy. Psychic attacks were usually only effective against one's mind. No matter how powerful a fae was, the target of a spiritual ability would not be the opponent's body. It could be said that mental power was a power that was outside of the physical world. However, Genius was able to condense its mental power into a palm. It did not just target mental power. Instead, it brought the spiritual energy from the spiritual plane into reality. If this matter were to be made known to the outside world, it would probably cause a huge commotion among the 5-star scholars. Genius's careless action had completely overturned the research that 5-star scholars had done on mental strength in the past century. Lin Yuan looked at Genius with a serious expression. Smart. Look into my eyes. When Genius heard Lin Yuan's words, it withdrew its gaze from its pink pads. He looked up and met Lin Yuan's gaze. When Genius saw Lin Yuan's serious expression, it also became serious. Lin Yuan looked at Genius and revealed a bright smile on his stern and serious face. Lin Yuan used his hand to rub Genius' head. Smart. True strength is never just reflected in martial strength. Knowledge is power. Genius isn't weaker than anyone else. In fact, you are much stronger than others. When Lin Yuan said this, he didn't have any intention to comfort Genius. In fact, Lin Yuan felt that what he said wasn't enough to express the power of Genius' exclusive skill after evolving into the fantasy breed interconnected beast. Genius and Lin Yuan were spiritually connected, so it naturally felt that Lin Yuan's words were sincere. The melancholic expression on Genius' face instantly vanished, and it was so happy that its cat ears perked up. Its two cute little ears were constantly twitching, showing the joy in Genius' heart. Genius still felt that it was very weak in its heart. If it were to fight with other Fays, even if Genius was already a Bronze X/Legend Fay, any random Silver X Fay would be able to defeat Genius. However, Genius wanted to become stronger purely because it wanted to be able to help Lin Yuan. Since Lin Yuan felt that it was strong, Genius didn't care if it felt that it was strong or not. To Genius, Lin Yuan's affirmation was the best thing in the world. Lin Yuan pointed at the jasmine lily and used the bud of mountain jade to use heal on Chimey again. Chimey fell into a deep sleep on Genius' back and was recovering its depleted life force. Due to the Nirvana sound retaining a trace of Chimey's life force, the sleeping Chimey didn't use light cleansing on itself. According to this recovery speed, Chimey might not even wake up tomorrow. With the jasmine lily replenishing Chimey's depleted life force, Chimey opened its eyes on Genius' back in just a short moment. Once it opened its eyes, Chimey smelled the familiar scent on Genius' body and stretched its back in satisfaction. Immediately after, Chimey felt as though it had a nightmare while half asleep. It immediately spread its wings and flew up. Upon seeing that Genius was lying on Lin Yuan's shoulder in perfect condition, Chimey heaved a sigh of relief. Chimey flew to the tip of Genius' nose and pecked it while chirping, "Stupid Genius. You made Lin Yuan and I worry about you for a few hours." If Genius had lost consciousness during the evolution process, it would have gone through a near-death experience to complete its evolution. However, it would definitely feel sad when its cherished companion said this. However, Genius was clear-headed and knew what Chimey had sacrificed for it. Now that it heard Chimey's reproachful worry and relief, it felt a warm feeling in its heart. When Lin Yuan looked at Genius and Chimey, the biggest rock in his heart finally fell to the ground. Even if this rock fell to the ground, Lin Yuan would still have lingering fear whenever he thought of the pain Genius had endured. However, everything was over. Genius might not have evolved its bloodline, but it still preserved the 100 Questions Beast's bloodline. However, Genius' spiritual energy had a qualitative leap. If Lin Yuan didn't have a contract with Genius and knew that Genius had evolved from the 100 Questions Beast, Lin Yuan wouldn't have been able to sense Genius' pure and massive spiritual energy. Just by sensing Genius' pure and massive spiritual energy, Lin Yuan would have felt that Genius was a rare spiritual life form that was formed from spiritual energy. First, end of this chapter. Chapter 783. At that moment, the blade bat was successfully promoted to bronze after being nourished by the dream-eating bat's essence blood. During the promotion process, its bloodline underwent a series of transformations. It mutated from the original blade bat to the edge blade bat, umbra blade bat, and finally to the edge shadow bat. The edge shadow bat had been promoted from elite/epic to bronze. Thus, after the promotion, it had 3 exclusive skills. Edge Shattering Shadow. When attacking, the wing blades will shatter while slashing the target, turning the original lacerations on the target into area of effect slashing damage. Bat Fang Blood Species. The Edge Shadow Bat injects the venom hidden in its teeth into the target's body, allowing the target to be affected by the venom and turn into a blood slave. Bat Ritual Burial. burn the blood in the body and allow the body's strength to break through the limit in a short time. Once the blood is burned, the body will enter a near-death state due to the depletion of blood. After seeing the information of these 3 exclusive skills, Lin Yuan didn't even think before choosing the Bat Fang blood species for the Edge Shadow Bat. Edge Shattering Shadow mainly relied on the attack power of the Edge Shadow Bat's wing blades. It turned from a blade into a meat grinder in the target's body and could indeed cause multiple times the damage. It could even blast a large hole in the target's body, allowing the crushed parts to flow out of the hole. The exclusive skill Edge Shattering Shadow could indeed increase the Edge Shadow Bat's wing blade's destructive power. However, this destructive power had to be built on the wing blade's original attack effect. It could be said to be useless in a cross-grade battle as it was like drawing legs on a snake. After all, whether the exclusive skill Edge Shattering Shadow could be used depended on whether the blade could break through the defense. The third exclusive skill, Bat Ritual Burial, was a suicidal attack that burned the blood as the price. Once Bei Su used this method, it was the same as crippling the Edge Shadow Bat. In a near-death state, the Edge Shadow Bat couldn't use its Bat Fang suck to recover its injuries. Therefore, he had no choice but to choose the Bat Fang blood species. The Bat Fang blood species was indeed capable, allowing Bei Su, a loner in the Rock Continent's underground world, to have a method to control other spirit chi professionals. This method was extremely necessary for Bei Su. In the underground world, where blood and betrayal coexisted, Bei Su might have just taken in a few underlings before he closed his eyes and took a nap. His exclusive skill, the Bat-Toothed blood species, completely eliminated Bei Su's worries. The Shadow Edge Bat had perfect control over the blood slaves transformed from the Bat-Fanged blood species. It could even extract the life force of the blood slaves to heal itself when it was injured in battle. Even if Bei Su's blood slaves weren't strong in the early stages, they could still be used as mobile medical kits. That alone made the Bat-Fanged bloodline worthwhile. He used True Data to carefully check the Bronze Sharp Shadow Bat's data and found that its normal and elite abilities had been strengthened qualitatively. Fey name, Sharp Shadow Dark Bat, Spirit Species, Toothed Bat/Horseshoe Bat, Fey Grade, Bronze, 1/10, Fey Type, Dark, Fey Quality, Normal Skills Frowny Face Wing Shadow Blade. By waving the wings, the blade will appear in the form of a shadow. Sucking Bat Swarm, summons a swarm of bats made up of a large number of shadows and uses the bats to suck on the target. Exclusive skill Frowny Face Bat Toothed blood species, the Sharp Shadow Dark Bat injects the toxins hidden in its teeth into the target's body, allowing the target's bloodline to completely transform into a blood slave. Now that the Blade Bat had evolved into the Sharp Shadow Dark Bat, it had changed from a close combat Fey to a long-range Fey that used the shadows. The normal ability had evolved from Wing Shadow Blade to Wing Shadow Blade, and it would undoubtedly be more agile in battle. At the same time, the long-range attacks would also reduce the chances of the Sharp Shadow Dark Bat getting injured. Lin Yuan was very surprised that the Elite Bat Swarm Suck had evolved into the Sucking Bat Swarm. Originally, the Sucking Bat Swarm's suck wasn't of much help in battle as the Blade Bats needed to kill the target before they could absorb the target's blood. In fact, it didn't mean that the Blade Bats had to kill the target before they could use the Sucking Bat's Bat Swarm Suck. It was because the Blade Bats had to attach themselves to the target when using the Sucking Bat Swarm Suck. When the bat fangs pierced into the target's body and sucked the blood, it was difficult to move and would be easily attacked. It was safer to kill the target before sucking the blood. Now, the Sucking Bat Swarm Suck completely avoided this point and became a skill that could be used in battle. The Sucking Bat Swarm Suck could summon a large number of bats made of shadows during battle. While the bats made of shadows used their sharp bat fangs to attack the target, they could also suck the target's blood to recover. Lin Yuan looked at the Sharp Shadow Dark Bat that he had nurtured using the Pinnacle Suzerain/Myth 2 Dream-Eating Bat's Essence blood and nodded with satisfaction. At the same time, he couldn't help but lament the massive upgrade to abilities from the Phase Bloodline evolution. Then, Lin Yuan called Genius down from the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's branch again and asked Genius to help concoct the spirit fluid that could allow the sharp shadow dark bat to evolve. Lin Yuan also started to enhance the bronze/normal sharp shadow dark bat. He was prepared to spend one day to upgrade the sharp shadow dark bat from normal to legend. Lin Yuan had invested so much in Bei Su because he had seen Bei Su's life through Bei Su's will and felt that Bei Su was very similar to the time when he had brought Chu Ci to survive. They had the same unyielding hard work and still had hope and anticipation for the future in adversity. On the other hand, it was also because Lin Yuan had the ambition to let Sky City cover the other continents. However, Lin Yuan's current ability was not enough to support his ambition. Bei Su, who had joined the Celestial Council, could basically be equivalent to Lin Yuan's arm and help him spread Sky City's seeds to the other continents. In summary, Bei Su was worthy of Lin Yuan devoting resources like the pinnacle myth 2 dream-eating bat's essence blood. Genius and Lin Yuan were concocting the spirit fluid, while Genius was enhancing the sharp shadow dark bat's quality. Chimey continued to live stream between the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's branches. At that moment, Chimey was looking at the bullet comments in the live streaming room and softly interacting with the audience. Ever since Chimey could speak, it felt that live streaming was much more interesting than before. It no longer had to ask Genius to help it type when it saw the bullet comments like before. Even though Chimey's singing talent was maxed out and it now had good intelligence, it still felt that it did not know where to start controlling the live streaming room's functions. When Chimey was answering the bullet comments, it saw that there were bullet comments from time to time saying that they wanted to see it PK with other star web streamers, so it was slightly tempted. Chimey's small brain could not help but wonder if it would be fun to PK with other streamers. Chapter 3. End of this chapter. Chapter 784. Bai Hao could be said to be a frequent visitor to the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess's live streaming room. Ever since Bai Hao had accidentally discovered the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess's live streaming room, he had occupied the top spot on the leaderboard. In the following period of time, Bai Hao was also pushed down from the first position by the rank 2. But when Bai Hao found out about it, he would give out a lot of gifts and return to his first place on the list. These days could be said to be the happiest days of Bai Hao's life. During this period of time, the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess had basically been live streaming every day. She had also started to talk and interact with the bullet screen. A person's singing voice is often different from his speaking voice. Bai Hao was a seasoned vocalist. He had been fascinated by the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess's singing voice from the beginning. However, the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess's singing seemed to have a magical power. Ever since Bai Hao heard the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess's singing, he found other people's singing boring. However, after hearing the voice of the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess, Bai Hao became even more infatuated with it. Compared to the ethereal singing of the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess, the voice of the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess was undoubtedly more realistic and lively, which Bai Hao liked more. Bai Hao preferred listening to the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess speak rather than listen to the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess sing. Therefore, Bai Hao, who did not usually speak in the live streaming channel, had recently started to interact with the bullet screen like crazy. All so that the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess could see his message and say a few words to him while she was singing. As a Radiance 100 sequence member, Bai Hao's guild club was a star guild in the S tournament, so his every move would naturally be watched by everyone. Bai Hao openly used his star web account to be a fan of the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess, causing Bai Hao's exclusive reporter to feel miserable. Bai Hao's personal star web reporters contacted him several times, hoping that he could clarify his relationship with the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess. However, she did not expect that not only did Bai Hao not want to clarify, but he even publicly admitted that he was the #1 fan of the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess. This made Bai Hao's exclusive reporter feel overwhelmed even if he worked overtime day and night. When Bai Hao heard the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess's new song, he quickly sent a string of bullet screen comments. Ranger Bai Hao, Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess, go and PK with other star web streamers. With me here, you won't lose no matter who you PK with. Chimey originally had the thought of PK after seeing the bullet screen comments from the audience. Now that Bai Hao mentioned PK again and promised that he wouldn't lose no matter what, it spoke up. Alright, since that's the case, I'll have a PK. But how should I do it? Chimey had never understood the functions of the live streaming room. Now, even if it wanted to PK, it didn't know what to do. Hearing the sparrow voice lowly goddess voice, the viewers in the live stream channel were almost melted by the sparrow voice lowly goddess voice. The goddess who could sing so well actually had an adorable attribute. She was simply too cute. Chimey looked at the comments in the live streaming room and finally found the PK button with great difficulty. Chimey pressed the PK button without hesitation. Chimey, who had just pressed the PK button, suddenly shivered. It recalled what Genius had said. As long as it wasn't in its own live streaming room, the GIF function on its face would disappear when it went to other live streaming rooms. In order to allow the viewers of the two live streaming rooms to watch the live streaming on the same channel, the Star Web PK would merge the original live streaming rooms of the two hosts to form a new live streaming room. At the thought of this, Chimey immediately logged out of its Star Web account. After logging out of its Star Web account, Chimey used its wings to pat its chest and thought to itself. That was close. I, the sparrow voice lowly goddess, reacted fast enough. Otherwise, would have screwed up. However, Chimey didn't know that once the Star Web PK started, it wouldn't be interrupted. Even if one side logged out or went offline, it would be fixed on the scene when it logged out. When Chimey entered the Star Web PK, it was at the trunk of the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. Behind it were 100 phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree leaves that contained mid-grade extraordinary flames. The golden leaves were mixed with 100 different colors of flames, as though they were flickering with 100 rays of light in the sun. At that moment, apart from the magnificent background, the sparrow voice lowly goddess's live streaming room also had a lively Luan bird in the corner of the screen. When Chimey was live streaming on the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, it was absorbing the energy transmitted from the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, causing it to not enter its usual mimicry state. Upon seeing such a scene, the viewers in the live streaming room were stunned, and the comments started to flood the screen in a frenzy. The viewers in the opposite live streaming room were the first to react. Lost moral gentleman, what's going on? What's the opposite live streamer doing? Is it stuck or disconnected? What's going on with live streamers in the attractive section showing off their pets? Half man half ghost, fuck, what's going on with the sparrow voice lowly goddess? Why is it stuck? And why can't I see the sparrow voice lowly goddess on the screen? Amber button, let me ask, don't tell me this bird has always been live streaming? Shadow hacker, upstairs, you must be retarded. The songstress bird is the best singing fae at present, but can the sparrow voice lowly goddess's song be comparable to the songstress bird's? Amethyst, I have a guess, but I don't know if I should say it. Shadow, oh my god, let me say it. Don't you think that bird fae looks familiar? Blue wind and rain, oh my god. If you didn't say it, I wouldn't have realized it. Isn't that bird fae the one that Black revealed during the celestial stairway duels? Three little cucumbers. Previously, many people were guessing why the sparrow voice lowly goddess only followed Black when there were so many people on Star Web. Now, I finally know. Don't tell me the sparrow voice lowly goddess and Black know each other now. Otherwise, why didn't the sparrow voice lowly goddess remove all her followers after giving her so much money? Although the sparrow voice lowly goddess had gone offline, the duels were still going on. The scene started to become more and more chaotic. For a moment, a large number of Star Web reporters and spectators swarmed into the live streaming room to participate in this big news. During this period, the most mysterious live streamer on Star Web was the sparrow voice lowly goddess. With the end of the All-Star duel, Chu Ci and Lin Yuan's performances were outstanding. In addition, Lin Yuan's strength and identity were even more mysterious. He was like a top expert of the younger generation that had appeared out of thin air. Lin Yuan looked to be only 17 or 18 years old, which matched Star Web's guess of Black's age. This caused many people to compare Black and Lin Yuan together. It just so happened that Black had been very low-key apart from occasionally participating in 2 celestial stairway duels in the past month. Black's exclusive reporter, Tian Ningning, would only occasionally write a few battle records about Black's celestial stairway duels on Star Web. She did not report anything else. On one hand, this slightly decreased Black's popularity. On the other hand, it also made Black's existing fans more curious about Black's situation. Now that the bird Fae in the live streaming room was exposed, Black, who had been low-key recently, was connected to the most popular live streamer on Star Web, Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess. It became the hottest news on Star Web overnight. Chapter 3 Sad Face End of this chapter. Chapter 785. Even the popularity of the S-Tournament semi-finals lucky draw was suppressed by the news of the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess and Black. At the moment, Bai Hao was the most conflicted person in the live stream channel. On the one hand, Bai Hao was conflicted about the relationship between the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess and Black. In the past 6 months, the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess had become Bai Hao's spiritual support. As long as he could not see the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess's live broadcast, Bai Hao would not be able to muster up any energy. Although Bai Hao had always been single, he understood what feelings were. He knew that in his current situation, he had fallen in love with the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess just because of her voice. Even if Bai Hao was not sure about the relationship between the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess and Black, the fact that Black's Fae had appeared beside the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess proved that the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess and Black were very close. This caused Bai Hao to feel very uncomfortable. On the other hand, what made Bai Hao more excited was that the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess had been stuck during a duel with another streamer. This proved that the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess was not averse to live streaming with her face exposed. Among all the live streamers on Star Web, it was the hardest for live streamers to survive in the attractive section. Since the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess was not averse to showing her face in the attractive section, it was obvious that the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess did not look bad. Moreover, it was very likely that the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess would fight again in the live stream. He still had a chance to see the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess' true appearance. In Bai Hao's opinion, the fact that the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess and Black knew each other had given him a channel to get to know the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess offline. It was said that Black was going to participate in the Radiance 100 Sequences test this year. Given the strength he had displayed in the Celestial Stairway duel, entering the Radiance 100 sequence was a sure thing. At that time, he and Black would both be members of the Radiance 100 sequence. Bai Hao believed that if he asked Black to help him create an opportunity for his fan idol to meet offline, Black should not reject it. At that moment, Lin Yuan was enhancing the sharp shadow dark bat. Upon seeing Chimey fly over and land on his ear obediently without making a fuss, Lin Yuan felt a little strange. When Lin Yuan let Chimey land on his wrist, he immediately realized that when Chimey looked at him, it would subconsciously look in another direction as though it had a guilty conscience. This made Lin Yuan a little confused, as he did not know what was wrong with Chimey. However, he did not think too much about it. However, what Lin Yuan did not know was that his exclusive reporter, Tian Ningning, had already gone crazy. She was repeatedly sending messages to the Star Web account that hacked his identity. Day and night were the same on the Cavern Continent. Only at noon would a bit of sunlight shine through the underground world of the Cavern Continent. In the eyes of the living beings on the Cave Continent, the few hours where sunlight seeped through the underground world was a blessing from the heavens. Noon was the warmest time of the day in the underground world of the Cave Continent. A young man that looked like a little beast was crawling in a pile of broken rocks. The youth's expression was resolute, but the sand on his face that was scratched made him look rather miserable. The disheveled young man was holding a stone awl in his hand as he stared at a huge brown beetle chewing on moss not far away from the pile of broken rocks. Bei Su held the stone awl in one hand and placed the other on his stomach, pressing his stomach tightly into his abdomen. In order to prevent the rumbling sound of the empty stomach from disturbing the giant brown beetle that was eating the moss, he had to keep the empty stomach from making any noise due to hunger. Bei Su thought to himself. I'm really lucky today. There's actually a crab worm that came near the pile of rocks I built. Looks like I won't have to go hungry today. Otherwise, if he continued to starve, Bei Su was afraid that he would faint from hunger and would not be able to enter the Celestial Council at the appointed time. It could be said that the Celestial Council was the only hope that Bei Su could see in the underground world. In the past few days, Bei Su could not help but think of the godlike man that was surrounded by numerous laws and wills. He was looking forward to meeting this godlike man again. Bei Su looked at the crabworm's stomach that was becoming more and more swollen after eating a large amount of moss. He rushed out of the pile of broken rocks. But when Bei Su rushed out of the pile of broken rocks, he immediately clenched his teeth because of his injury. At this time, Bei Su's calf had a wound that was nearly 20 centimeters long. Although Bei Su had tied up the wound with a rock board and hemp strips, it was still not enough. Although Bei Su had used a stone board and hemp strips to tie up the wound, a dark red color seeped out of the hemp strips and quickly soaked the thick hemp strips. Bei Su did not care about the injury on his leg and leaped towards the side of the crabworm. He raised the stone awl in his hand and fiercely stabbed at the fragile neck of the crabworm, which was exposed due to the moss on the ground. But the stone awl did not directly pierce through the neck of the crabworm. It only pierced halfway through its neck. Bei Su did not panic because he had never thought that the stone awl would be able to pierce through the neck of the crabworm. Now that the stone awl had pierced halfway through the neck of the crabworm, Bei Su had already reached his expectations. After the attack, Bei Su immediately turned around and used his fastest speed to escape into the pile of broken rocks. Then, he picked up the stone board that he had prepared earlier and placed it at the entrance of the pile of broken rocks. At that moment, the crabworm, which had recovered from the sudden attack, suddenly opened its back plate and flapped its large insect wings. Hearing the sound of the crabworm's wings, Bei Su calmed down. When the crabworm lifted its back plate, the front part of the back plate would cover the head of the crabworm. This kind of body structure was to protect the head of the crabworm while it was flying. However, this flipped back plate would also push the stone awl that Bei Su had pierced into the neck of the crabworm deeper. Because the crabworm had just eaten a large amount of ground moss, the ground moss would absorb the minerals underground during its growth, so it was very heavy. Even if the crabworm flapped its wings, it would still not be able to fly fast. After the crabworm left the ground, the stone awl had completely pierced through its neck and was stuck in its carapace. Although the crabworm's reaction was very slow, it could still clearly see that Bei Su was attacking it. Like a small cannonball, it flew towards Bei Su's hiding place. When the crabworm hit the stone board, Bei Su, who was behind the stone board, felt his internal organs tremble. His arms went numb and a fishy taste gushed out of his throat. However, Bei Su did not let go of the stone board in his hand and held it firmly. The sounds of insects chirping, crashing, and Bei Su's muffled groans rang out one after another. Even after half an hour, when the crashing outside became very weak, Bei Su still did not dare to relax. After a long time, when there was no longer any movement outside, Bei Su took out a sharpened stone knife from his hiding place and walked out. The second one. End of this chapter. Chapter 786. It was already past noon, and the light on the surface had weakened. It was difficult for light to penetrate the underground world, and the underground world had also quietly become dark. Bei Su shook his trembling arms, and did not dare to stop as he began to clean up the dead crabworm. Bei Su first carefully used a stone knife to cut open the eyes of the crabworm, and took out 2 pieces of cartilage the size of jelly beans. These 2 pieces of cartilage were very special, and could actually emit a faint light in the gradually darkening world. Bei Su kept the 2 pieces of cartilage like they were treasures, and began to carefully separate the cartilage of the crabworm. After separating the cartilage, Bei Su cut off a pair of milky white wings inside the cartilage that were at least 2 meters long. After cutting off the wings, Bei Su immediately scraped the insect oil under the wings, and then cut off the 2 pieces of crystal clear insect meat inside the insect oil. After doing this, Bei Su no longer continued to deal with the body of the crabworm. Most of the useful parts of the crabworm had been cut off, and the remaining parts would touch the internal organs of the crabworm if he were to cut it again. The reason why the crabworm could digest hard minerals like moss was because the digestive fluid in its body was extremely acidic. This acidic substance was extremely harmful to Bei Su. Even if Bei Su did not come into contact with the acidic digestive fluid, the stone knife would immediately be corroded by the acid. This stone knife had been sharpened by Bei Su for almost 3 days, and Bei Su did not want to easily destroy the stone knife in his hand. Bei Su carefully separated the parts from the crabworm and placed them in the pile of rocks that he built, leaving only a portion of the insect oil. He then carefully placed it on the stone slab. Next, Bei Su untied the linen cloth on his leg, took off the rock splint that stopped the bleeding, and applied the insect oil of the crabworm on his leg. Bei Su sighed. With this insect oil, although this leg will need some time to heal, it will not become infected and fester. After wrapping up the wound, Bei Su used all his strength to drag the remaining cartilage of the crabworm to the underground river 1,000 meters away. He then pushed the carcass of the crabworm into the underground river. Looking at the pitch-black environment, Bei Su hurriedly groped his way back to his little nest, pushed the stone slab aside, and crawled in. Bei Su closed the stone slab and piled a pile of gravel on the inside of the stone slab. Then, he took the crabworm's wings and sat on it. With the glimmer of the cartilage, Bei Su cut off a few pieces of worm meat with a sharp stone knife. Bei Su did not gobble down the worm meat, but stopped when he felt that it was barely enough to fill his stomach. Bei Su cut the rest of the worm meat into thin slices and spread them on the rock. He was going to dry the worm meat and store it for later consumption. Under the glimmer of light, Bei Su, who was so sleepy that he couldn't even think clearly, forced himself to endure for a long time. Only then did he lay down on the new bed made from the wings of the crabworm and fell into a deep slumber. The corners of the sleeping Bei Su's mouth rose slightly under the faint light, as if he was looking forward to something in his dream. At this time, far away in the Azure Federation, Lin gently raised her head and looked at the bright and colorful world in front of her. In these 6 days, Lin put down the touching book that she loved so much and endlessly looked at this world that she had imagined countless times. Even though she couldn't see it clearly, Lin still couldn't get enough of it. At this time, Lin only saw a figure walking in front of her. Lin lightly twitched the tip of her nose. Before the figure in front of her could speak, Lin softly asked, "Mom, why did you come back so early today? Mom, why did you come back so early today? It's not time for afternoon tea yet." Beside Lin was a middle-aged woman in an azure blue dress that was full of charm and elegance. The middle-aged woman stretched out her hand and gently touched Lin's face. Her expression was full of love, as if she was touching a fragile treasure. Then, the middle-aged woman waved her hand and 2 furry little beasts appeared in her arms. These 2 little beasts were very lively and curiously looked around. They even let out a baby sound from time to time. The middle-aged woman asked Lin, Lin, how are your eyes these past few days?" Lin's tranquil face bloomed with a bright smile as if she was happy that she could see this world. "Mom, I can still only see the color and shape of the light now. But after tomorrow, I will be able to see everything clearly." The middle-aged woman looked at Lin with some heartache and only thought that Lin's words were to tell her not to worry too much. In the middle-aged woman's heart, Lin was already very satisfied that she could see the color and shape of the light now. At the same time, the middle-aged woman started to blame herself again. If she had been more careful back then, she wouldn't have been plotted against. As a result, Lin didn't have time to see the world clearly when she was just born, and she lost the light. Lin, these are 2 fays. One is your father's family heirloom, the spirit speech white lion, and the other is your mother's family heirloom, the azure cloud leopard. The spirit speech white lion and the azure cloud leopard are both compatible with your willpower runes. Why don't you contract them, Lin? That way, apart from Dad, Mom, Uncle Butler, and Cece, you will also have 2 companions to accompany you. After hearing her mother's words, Lin didn't immediately reach out to take the spirit speech white lion and the azure cloud leopard. Instead, she asked in surprise, the spirit speech white lion and the azure cloud leopard, aren't they? Before Lin could ask, she heard her mother's gentle voice. Previously, when you couldn't see this world, your father and I discussed to create the simplest and most peaceful environment for you. Therefore, we didn't tell you about our family's matters. Lin, since you can vaguely see this world now, it is also good to contract 2 fays to protect you. Lin's usually clear-headed mind felt a little dizzy at this moment. Her mother had just said that the spirit speech white lion was her father's family heirloom, while the azure cloud leopard was her mother's family heirloom. Lin had touched these 2 fays many times when she had touched the Azure Continent's chronicles. As one of the 3 major federations, the Azure Continent had vast territories and developed commerce. Among the Azure Continent's major aristocratic families, they all had symbolic family heirlooms that showed their status. Among the aristocratic families, there was an extremely strict classification from 1 star to 5 star, just like creation masters. The spirit speech white lion was the symbolic fae of the class 4 family. The azure cloud leopard was the symbolic fae of the class 5 Guan family. There were a total of 8 class 5 factions in the Azure Continent, and each of these 8 major family symbolic fays were named Azure. Lin had always known that her father's surname was and her mother's surname was Guan. However, she didn't expect that her birth would be so illustrious. Chapter 3 Sad Face. End of this chapter. Chapter 787. Subsequently, Lin Yuan stored the scorched mussel duck, which he was preparing to plunge into the spirit pool, into the Fae storage box. He then asked Genius to continue concocting the Class 2 spirit liquid. As a result, Genius successfully concocted the Class 2 spirit liquid. However, when concocting the Class 3 spirit liquid, there were close to 20 types of spiritual ingredients, causing Genius to encounter some difficulties. Genius might be able to control the timing of each spiritual ingredient, but the palm formed by the spiritual energy obviously couldn't keep up with the speed. After failing twice, Genius finally concocted the Class 3 spirit liquid to upgrade the aquatic phase grade on the 3rd attempt. While Genius was concocting the spirit liquid, Lin Yuan managed to upgrade the drought sandbore's quality to bronze/epic. It only took Lin Yuan a few dozen minutes to successfully enhance the drought sandbore. As pure spirit chi poured into the drought sandbore's body from Lin Yuan's palm, the Mo bloodline that was hidden in the drought sandbore's body was successfully awakened. The awakening of the Mo bloodline caused the drought sandbore's nose to almost touch the ground. After concocting the light blue spirit liquid, Genius immediately lost its spirit and nearly dozed off. After concocting 3 consecutive Class 3 spirit liquids, Genius felt abnormally fatigued. Lin Yuan looked at the small bottle of light blue spirit liquid and couldn't help but sigh. The appearance of this small bottle of spirit liquid meant that Genius had accomplished something that it couldn't do. The small bottle of light blue spirit liquid that Genius had concocted was enough for a gold supreme grade angelfish of bliss to successfully evolve into platinum. In fact, Genius was now able to concoct spirit liquids to increase its grade. However, Lin Yuan wouldn't allow Genius to do so. During the evolution process, the purer the spirit chi that Genius absorbed, the better its aptitude would be after the evolution. In fact, constantly absorbing pure spirit chi would increase the chances of positive mutation and bloodline evolution. This was also why Lin Yuan hadn't spent money to look for other creation masters to enhance phase and had relied on himself. As someone with OCD, Lin Yuan had always been persistent when it came to the enhancement of his phase. Even if it was a little slow, he had to allow the phase to evolve in the strongest state. Genius yawned and pounced into Lin Yuan's embrace. Lin Yuan, Genius is now a Class 3 scholar, Class 3 Fey analyst and Class 3 spiritual ingredient analyst. Next, Genius wishes to learn the knowledge of Class 4 scholar, Class 4 spiritual ingredient analyst and Class 4 Fey observer. In addition to learning, Genius will help Lin Yuan concoct this spirit fluid, okay? Anyway, Lin Yuan is going to rear so many fish in the future. When Lin Yuan heard Genius' words, he felt that Genius was too sensible. It could be said that after Genius became a fantasy breed, Lin Yuan's need for the angelfish of bliss fish coat was urgent. Lin Yuan's intelligence, Chu Si's burning sunflower, and Lu Jie's insect queen. There were too many fays in the mansion that needed to consume a spiritual-type spiritual ingredient like the fish skin to increase their spiritual energy. It was just that the artificial lake hadn't been expanded yet. Moreover, even though the artificial lake had been expanded, the angelfish of bliss had not been upgraded. It would take some time for the premium angelfish of bliss to reach the platinum level and become an adult fish to produce fish coats. Therefore, Lin Yuan had set his sights on the Sea of Bliss. Lin Yuan stroked his chin and thought. What I need to do next is to help the Blissful Sea clan solve the production problem of the blissful angelfish, so that the number of the Blissful Sea clan's young fish will increase exponentially. They are said to be great contributors to the Sea of Bliss. In such a situation, the Sea of Bliss wouldn't have the cheek to charge me for some high-quality fish coats, right? Genius was already taking a nap on Lin Yuan's knee. Chimey was lying on Genius' back with its wings spread out. It was kicking its claws and sleeping soundly. Lin Yuan flashed out of the spirit lock spatial zone. He then carefully placed Genius and Chimey on the bed in the guest room. As he looked at the sleeping Genius and Chimey, Lin Yuan felt his heart was incomparably calm. Immediately after, Lin Yuan took out the Heaven and Earth Fae, which Little Black had flicked its tail, from the Fae storage box. Lin Yuan still didn't dare to take out the Heaven and Earth Fae in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. If he took out the Heaven and Earth Fae in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, the Spirit Chi in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone would continue to be absorbed by the 99 infant Heaven and Earth Faes. Therefore, he could only deal with the young flowers of the Heaven and Earth Fae, such as the Sun Reflection King Lotus. He would then use the infant Heaven and Earth Phase to test the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. He couldn't let the infant Heaven and Earth Phase absorb Spirit Chi faster than the Spirit Pool could convert Spirit Chi. However, it wasn't that simple to split the Heaven and Earth Phase. If it wasn't handled properly, it wouldn't just cause the Heaven and Earth Phase Mother Lotus to be damaged. At the same time, it might cause the infant Heaven and Earth Phase to wither. At such a time, Lin Yuan wouldn't be stingy with the use of Spirit Chi crystals. After all, these Heaven and Earth Phase were very useful to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan planned to build an underground space, where the temperature and humidity were suitable for plant phase. However, there was no light underground. If Lin Yuan could separate these infant Heaven and Earth Phase and nurture them into individual Heaven and Earth Phase, as long as these infant Heaven and Earth Phase absorbed enough sunlight, each of them would be like a real sun at night. Furthermore, the Heaven and Earth Phase roots were very long, and the sunlight absorbed by the leaves would be stored in the lotus roots. At that time, Lin Yuan could connect the Heaven and Earth Phase planted at the bottom of the hidden WYRM lake with the Heaven and Earth Phase planted in the underground space. The sunlight absorbed by the Heaven and Earth Phase in the hidden WYRM lake could supply the Heaven and Earth Phase in the underground space at the same time. The sun formed by a large number of Mountain Emerald King lotuses could form a complete ecosystem in the underground space. This would allow Lin Yuan to develop and modify the underground space at will. However, the separated Heaven and Earth Phase would wither if they weren't nurtured within a short period of time. Therefore, Lin Yuan decisively plucked the petals like he was plucking lotus seeds, breaking off the flower heads of the 99 Reflection Sun King lotuses in their infancy stage. Lin Yuan, who had just plucked 99 flower heads, decisively crushed a Spirit Chi crystal. He circulated the Spirit Chi in the Spirit Chi crystal and let the 99 infant Heaven and Earth Phase absorb them. In order to save Spirit Chi, Lin Yuan didn't let the Heaven and Earth Phase absorb the Spirit Chi in the Spirit Chi crystal. In any case, the injuries of the Heaven and Earth Phase would recover after being nurtured in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone for a day or two. The 99 infant Heaven and Earth Phase absorbed the Spirit Chi in the Spirit Chi crystal, and the damaged plant tissues that had oozed sap were slowly healing. Third, more. seeking recommendation votes and monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 788. Lin Yuan paused for a moment before saying, "That's right. I'll text Brotherly the address of my manor later. It's just that if Big Brotherly comes now, you might need to wait in the manor for half an hour. I still have some things to do." Li Xian, who was on the other side of the phone, clenched his fists and said excitedly, "I'll go there with the elders of my clan immediately. Brother, you've really helped me a lot." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan also smiled brightly. "If I have any difficulties in the future, I believe Big Brotherly will also help me." After hanging up the phone, he looked at the time and gave up the idea of talking to Chimey in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Instead, he headed straight for the training room on the 3rd floor, preparing to start the dream conference. In fact, Lin Yuan had revealed the location of his return from faraway mansion to Li Xian and asked Li Xian to bring Li Yun Avian Can's elders here for a special purpose. As the Nyx assembly would be held 7 days later, his identity as the Moon Empress disciple would naturally be revealed. At that time, almost all the peak forces would try to find out about him. Li Yun Bird Niche was the signal that Lin Yuan had sent to the other top factions. Through the information obtained from Li Yun Niao Can, the other peak forces could easily find out where he was staying. He also wanted the other top factions to know where his territory was. With his identity as the Moon Empress disciple, no one in the royal capital would dare to come to the Return from Faraway Manor to behave atrociously. The Return from Faraway Manor wasn't just the residence of the Moon Empress disciple. Before the floating island whale hatched, the Return from Faraway Mansion was still Sky City's headquarters. If Sky City really fought with the Zhang and Miao families in the future, the Miao family would most likely discover the location of the Return from Faraway Manor through the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Now that he had taken the lead in labeling the Return from Faraway Manor as the residence of the Moon Empress disciple, even if the Miao and Zhang families found any clues from the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, they would never suspect that the Return from Faraway Manor was related to the Sky City. This way, the secrets of the Sky Castle could be hidden to the greatest extent. At the same time, the underground space of the Return from Faraway Manor became a secret place that no one would dare to explore even if it was accidentally discovered. When he arrived at the training room, Wen Yu had already completed the Celestial Council ceremony. He sat on the chair and sank into the dreamland, once again arriving inside the Celestial Council in the vast starry sky with Wen Yu. However, it was different this time. He had already signed a contract with the Leo throne of the Celestial Council's 12 zodiac constellations. When he arrived at the Celestial Council, he appeared on the throne of Leo, one of the 12 zodiac constellations. The huge Leo nebula hung high above Lin Yuan's head, emitting bright starlight. When the Leo nebula lit up in the sky above the Celestial Council, the Libra nebula also lit up in the southwest of the Leo nebula. Wen Yu said to Lin Yuan while sitting on the throne of the Libra constellation, "Young master, this time I will only activate the Andromeda constellation and the Immortal constellation, the two north and south constellations. If Andromeda constellation and Immortal constellation have been activated for 15 minutes and there is still no response from the two southern sky constellations, then I will continue to let the other southern sky constellations choose their own targets." Lin Yuan nodded slightly. He knew that her spiritual energy could only support the Celestial Council for half an hour at most. Therefore, waiting for 15 minutes was considered a very extravagant thing. However, Lin Yuan felt that he and Wen Yu would not need to wait for 15 minutes before starting the Celestial Council. As long as nothing happened to Bei Su and Yin Lin, Lin Yuan was confident that when Andromeda and Immortal constellation activated their willpower and souls, Bei Su and Yin Lin would instantly appear next to the Immortal constellation and Andromeda constellation. Sure enough, the cat's eye stone on Wen Yu's forehead only flashed for a moment, and Bei Su and Yin Lin were immediately pulled into the Celestial Council. Bei Su and Yin Lin looked at the vast starry sky that they had been looking forward to for 7 days and breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. Then, the two of them looked at the stars in the Leo nebula and the Libra nebula in front of them with fascination. Bei Su had lived in the cave continent's underground world and had never had the chance to go to the surface. The last time Bei Su entered the Celestial Council was the first time he had seen the charming starry sky. However, the last encounter with the starry sky made Bei Su think it was a beautiful dream before he was about to die. After the last Celestial Council ended, Bei Su woke up in the darkness and found that his injuries had recovered, which made him believe that the Celestial Council did indeed exist. Thus, Bei Su was so fascinated when he saw this starry sky for the second time. Enlin and Bei Su's situation was exactly the same. Although Enlin had confirmed the Celestial Council's existence the last time, this was only the second time she had clearly seen this world. Enlin returned to her senses from the bright starry sky and immediately focused her attention on Wenyu. At that moment, Lin Yuan and Wenyu were also staring at Enlin. Lin Yuan was quite shocked. The last time he had probed Enlin through her body, which was composed of willpower and soul. He could only roughly guess that Enlin came from the Azure Federation based on the knowledge she knew. After all, most of the knowledge in Enlin's mind was related to the Azure Federation. In an environment where the various federations were isolated from each other, books like the Azure Federation Chronicles and the Azure Continent Chronicles were difficult to come into contact with if one was not from the Azure Federation. Apart from the knowledge in some books, Lin Yuan could only feel through Enlin's willpower some strange imagination, the taste of food, the touch of objects, and other one-sided things. However, through the taste of the food, Lin Yuan could still confirm that Enlin was born in a wealthy family. However, Enlin's re-entry into the Celestial Council gave Lin Yuan a big surprise. Now, apart from being able to confirm that Enlin came from the Azure Federation, Lin Yuan also knew of Enlin's shocking and illustrious identity. The Azure Federation and the Radiance Federation were the world's three major federations, so one could imagine how powerful the Azure Federation was. If Enlin's identity was compared to the Radiance Federation, she was probably not inferior to Li Xian, who came from a top faction, Li Yun Avian Niche. Enlin's identity was even stronger than Li Xian's. After all, there were as many as 50 top factions in the Radiance Federation, while there were only 12 Class 5 families in the Azure Federation that could bear the name of Azure for their family phase. If Enlin could sign a contract with the Southern Heaven Constellation Throne and become a member of the Celestial Council, Lin Yuan's system would be considered to have found a protagonist with an illustrious background. As long as he could use it properly, Lin Yuan could obtain great benefits. Even more. End of this chapter. Chapter 789. The cave continent where Bei Su was located was extremely far from the Radiance Federation and was considered a barren and desolate continent. Without using the ethereal jellyfish's core tentacle, it was impossible for him to reach the cave continent. However, the Azure Federation was different. Although the Azure Federation and the Radiance Federation were very far apart, there was a Radiance Blue Sea route jointly created by the Radiance Federation and the Azure Federation. Adult island whales could make a round trip on the Radiance Blue Sea route in 3 months. Through strategic resources like the Radiance Blue Sea route and island whales, the Radiance Federation and the Azure Federation would occasionally exchange resources. Lin Yuan was tapping his fingers on the armrest of the Golden Throne. The lion tail imprint on his wrist, which symbolized the Parliament's authority, was flowing with a majestic aura. Upon seeing Enlin and Bei Su looking at him, Lin Yuan said, "I asked you to go back and consider the matter last time. If you've thought it through and decided to agree to it, place your palms on the throne in front of you and inject your willpower into it." The Parliament could only last for 30 minutes, so Lin Yuan did not exchange too much pleasantries with Enlin and Bei Su. If Enlin and Bei Su both chose to sign a contract with the Northern and Southern constellations, then they would officially become members of the Parliament. It would not be too late to communicate, and Enlin and Bei Su completely became his subordinates. Although trust was sometimes the most important thing between people, it was often safer to sign a contract that could not be violated. After all, Lin Yuan was going to consume laws and willpower to provide help to Enlin and Bei Su through the sacred source entity Parliament's astral spirit throne. If Lin Yuan invested a lot of resources without being sure of Yin Lin and Bei Su's loyalty, he would be a fool. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Yin Lin and Bei Su did not hesitate. They had already made their decision in 7 minutes. Yin Lin and Bei Su stretched out their palms and placed their palms on the Andromeda and Immortal thrones beside them. With the infusion of their willpower, 2 nebulae quietly lit up above the parliament. The stars in these 2 nebulae seemed to form a fairy holding a crown, while the other formed an immortal wielding a blade to attack the enemy. These 2 nebulae were far less resplendent than the Leo and Libra nebulae. The starlight they emitted was not golden but silver-white. However, the 2 nebulae in the sky still added a bit of magnificence to the parliament. When the 2 nebulae of Andromeda and Perseus respectively moved above Yin Lin and Bei Su's heads, a complicated constellation totem appeared on Yin Lin's neck and Bei Su's arm. The moment the nebulae appeared, Bei Su and Yin Lin were instantly surprised. Both of them felt the miraculous effects of the totem on their bodies. It was as though the totems on his body could communicate with the Andromeda constellation and the Perseus constellation, and through the guidance of the 2 constellations, he came to the assembly of the constellations. When you looked at Yin Lin and Bei Su and reminded them, "The next time the body assembly is held, I will inform you through the totem imprints on your bodies. When you feel the heat from the totem imprints, find a place where no one will disturb you, and fuse your will and soul into the constellation totem on your body. This way, you will be able to enter the body assembly on your own. It won't be as troublesome as before, where you can only be guided by the constellation in your dreams." Bei Su and Yin Lin touched the spots on their bodies where the constellation totem appeared, and felt much more at ease. It would be too harsh if he had to enter deep sleep every time he entered the Titan Parliament. After all, when people were nervous, it was very likely that they would suffer from insomnia. Even if he didn't suffer from insomnia and successfully fell asleep, he still had to consider the possible external factors. There was even a possibility that they might wake up due to their own internal factors, such as being forced to pee, which meant that they would miss the opportunity to enter the human assembly. That was too much of a pain in the ass. When Yin Lin and Bei Su signed the contract with the Andromeda and Immortal constellations, it was equivalent to using their own willpower runes to make an oath. Lin Yuan coughed, stood up from the Leo throne, and asked Bei Su, "Since the contract has been signed, can you tell me your request now?" Upon hearing that, Bei Su first bowed deeply to Lin Yuan before replying, "Yes, Master. Brother Immortal, I want a fey that can be contracted." Bei Su suddenly thought of something and said somewhat cautiously and embarrassedly, "Brother Immortal, can I make an additional request?" Lin Yuan suddenly thought of something and was a little reserved and embarrassed. "Brother Immortal, can I make an additional request?" Lin Yuan was embarrassed by Bei Su's form of address. What kind of fool is Bei Su? This fool calls me Brother Immortal. Will he call me Sister Immortal later? Lin Yuan hurriedly corrected Bei Su's form of address. "Since we are all members of the human assembly, you can call me by my code name in the future. I will also call you Immortal in the human assembly." While speaking, Lin Yuan saw Bei Su's somewhat pleading and hopeful gaze. Lin Yuan frowned slightly, thinking that Bei Su had some special request. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the fey he had prepared for Bei Su was undoubtedly very suitable for him to use in the cave continent's underground world. However, every spirit chi professional should have the right to choose the contracted fey. Lin Yuan was willing to respect Bei Su's wishes on this point. "Since you have a request, you can naturally raise it." Upon hearing that, Bei Su said with some longing, "I want to contract a fey that can fight." At this point, Bei Su subconsciously added another sentence. "As long as it's not a rotten fellow like the rock shell crab worm." When Lin Yuan heard Bei Su's request, he was stunned. What kind of request was this? Through Bei Su's willpower, Lin Yuan could sense Bei Su's experience in the past 7 days. He could see that Bei Su had been struggling on the line of life and death each time. Bei Su's rock shell crab worm was not even as suitable as the Radiance Federation's gray beetles, which no one was willing to contract. Bei Su's request was an opportunity that he had exchanged everything for. With such an opportunity, Bei Su was so hopeful to even raise a request that could not be considered a request. It could be seen how difficult it had been for Bei Su. Lin Yuan could not help but feel a little sorry for Bei Su, who was in the same situation as when he had brought Chu Ci to seek survival but was 100 times more miserable than him. Your request can naturally be satisfied. Actually, you can completely set the requirements for the Fey you want to contract in the future. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 790. Hu Quan did not realize that the Vitality Sloth was angry with him. He immediately put the Vitality Sloth back into his spiritual space. He said to Lin Yuan seriously, "Young master, I've contacted quite a number of grade 3 spirit craftsmen, about 200 of them. I plan to use this opportunity to take all these spirit craftsmen into the Heavenly Craft Pavilion. Tomorrow, these 200 spirit craftsmen will be able to start the construction of the artificial lake. Young master doesn't need to find an architect team. Every spirit craftsman is an expert in construction. I'll personally take care of these 200 grade 3 spirit craftsmen, and I won't need to put in any effort. If young master's materials are up to date, I am confident that I can complete the task within 20 days. Lin Yuan heard that Hu Quan had contacted nearly 200 Class 3 spirit craftsmen during this period and could all join the Heavenly Craft Pavilion. Lin Yuan was overjoyed. Lin Yuan was simply in dire need of spirit craftsmen. Hu Quan's Heavenly Craft Pavilion and the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's auction house had been built in the royal capital's most prosperous commercial street. Lin Yuan had seen how strict Hu Quan was in choosing a Class 3 spirit craftsman. Every Class 3 spirit craftsman recruited into the Heavenly Craft Pavilion could be considered Hu Quan's disciple to a certain extent. There were many rules for craftsmen. Every Class 3 spirit craftsman had to go through a complicated ceremony to acknowledge Hu Quan as their master. Then, he made 3 oaths to Hu Quan, the Heavenly Craft Pavilion, and the Sky City with willpower runes. This was equivalent to Hu Quan expressing his sincerity to Lin Yuan. However, according to the oath, Lin Yuan had a thread in his hands that was tied to Hu Quan. Hu Quan divided another 100 lines and connected them to more than 200 Class 3 spirit craftsmen. Although these Class 3 spirit craftsmen had nothing to do with Lin Yuan's connection to Hu Quan was tantamount to completely connecting these 200 Class 3 spirit craftsmen. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and immediately expressed his agreement. "Uncle Hu, I will prepare all the materials you need within 3 days." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's promise, Hu Quan was relieved. He said to Lin Yuan, "Young master, I've already tidied up your room. It's just that I haven't had the time to carve some ornaments. But it's no longer a problem for you to move in now." After saying that, Hu Quan went to the Spirit Craftsman Association and began to contact the 200 Class 3 spirit craftsmen. He seemed to have the intention of starting work in the middle of the night. Lin Yuan did not stop Hu Quan. After contracting the Vitality Sloth, Hu Quan could do what he liked all day without rest. Forcing Hu Quan to rest was equivalent to feeding a fish water. It was an unnecessary move. Lin Yuan returned to his room and looked at the restored room. He could not help but be shocked by the speed at which Hu Quan had renovated the room after becoming a Class 5 spirit craftsman. Lin Yuan could still vividly remember what had happened to the room when Blackie had destroyed it. In just a few hours, the heavily damaged room had been restored to its original state. This was simply an astonishing spirit craftsman's strength. He went to the guest room and saw that Genius and Chimey were still sleeping. He returned to the Spirit Lock spatial zone alone and started to clean up the completely jade-textured wood powder everywhere. If he had not become a Spirit Chi professional, it would have taken him at least 10 hours to clean up the jade-textured powder in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Now that he had the source sand, he turned it into sand and covered the Spirit Lock spatial zone. In just a few minutes, the sand piled up the completely jade-textured wood powder at Lin Yuan's feet. Lin Yuan took a bronze face storage box and stored the 500 kilograms of completely jade-textured wood powder inside. He had completed the first spiritual ingredient needed for the construction of the hidden Wyrm lake. After exiting the spirit lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan immediately contacted On Neng to transport the strengthened drought sand Emo out. Lin Yuan was already a little tired today and was preparing to rest early. However, since he had promised Hu Quan to gather all the materials needed for the construction of the hidden Wyrm lake within 3 days, Lin Yuan needed to take action immediately. After all, the amount of spiritual ingredients needed for the construction of the hidden Wyrm lake was simply too much. Lin Yuan leaned on the bed comfortably and logged onto the star web. This time, Lin Yuan did not choose to sweep the rare life-form pavilion like before. Instead, he intended to verify what kind of power his purchase with No Loss Store's fan network could burst out when he needed it. After entering his purchase with No Loss Store, Lin Yuan looked at the flower brocade pearls in the blind trade and pondered for a moment. He immediately decided to shorten the blind trade time again. Originally, it would take 1 day for each blind trade, but now, it had been shortened to 8 hours. Lin Yuan was a little afraid that the Sea of Bliss would react and they saw the change in the market price of the Aurora pollen. If the Sea of Bliss reacted and started to stock up on the Aurora pollen, then the 3-layered trap between Lin Yuan and the Sea of Bliss would be useless. No matter how Lin Yuan and the Sea of Bliss worked together, Lin Yuan would still benefit. However, due to the conflict between Gao Feng and the Sea of Bliss, he had already placed the new faction's role on the same level as the Sea of Bliss. After that, there would be a competition. If Lin Yuan nurtured the Sea of Bliss, it would be the same as increasing the strength of Gao Feng's enemies. Lin Yuan did not wish for such a thing to happen. He then entered the group chat and found Master Duanli discussing with a few other creation masters about the 30 flower brocade pearls for the next group welfare auction. Master Duanli, I hope everyone can let me have the 30 flower brocade pearls for the next group welfare auction. Master Duanli was one of the few class 4 creation masters in the group. The moment she spoke, the rest of the group couldn't help but guess her intentions. At that moment, Master Duanli, who sent the message, felt a little bitter. Back when the Heavenly Maiden grade pearls were being auctioned, she couldn't control herself and bid for them. However, Master Duanli would definitely not be willing to sell the elemental pearls, and she couldn't bear to keep them in her possession. As a result, the Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearls could only be used as real estate. Now, Master Duanli was so poor that she worked hard every day to concoct spirit fluids so that she could save up the resources she had spent. Master Duanli's continuous hard work caused her to run out of flower brocade pearls. Lin Yuan raised an eyebrow when he saw Master Duanli's message. This old man is not being honest. Back when the elemental pearls were being auctioned, the Reflection Sun Monarch Lotus had been split by this old man. If Lin Yuan didn't have the Spirit Lock spatial zone, or if he didn't throw the Reflection Sun Monarch Lotus into the spirit pool, the Reflection Sun Monarch Lotus origin was destined to be damaged. Lin Yuan didn't even have time to settle the score with Master Duanli. Now, Master Duanli wanted to use her popularity in the group welfare auction. This won't do. At that moment, Lin Yuan, who had been lurking in the group for many years, directly Master Duanli in the group. Third. Does anyone like this kind of construction chapter? If you like it, deduct 1. If you don't like it, deduct 2. Button up and adjust the content according to everyone's opinions. End of this chapter. Chapter 791. Lin Yuan no longer needed to spend special effort to solve Bei Su's worries. After Bei Su obtained the Edge Shadow Bat, he could use its elite ability, Bat Swarm Absorb, to heal himself while cutting off the curse mark on his waist. With the Bat Swarm Absorb, Bei Su would quickly replenish his vitality. After cutting off the curse mark, his flesh would quickly grow back without leaving any scars. However, Bei Su would inevitably suffer some hardships during this process. Lin Yuan had upgraded the Edge Shadow Bat's quality to Legend, once and for all, solving Bei Su's problem and improving the phase quality. Genius had also made preparations for Bei Su's advancement to the Shadow Blade Netherbat rank. If the edge shadow bat wanted to increase the sharpness of its blade wings, it usually needed to devour a lot of metals and hard minerals. Most of the dimensional rifts that opened in the cave continent's underground world were underground dimensional rifts, so there was no shortage of rocks and metals in the cave continent where Bei Su was. After Bei Su transformed the edge shadow bat into a fantasy breed and upgraded its grade, he could rely on the edge shadow bat's strength to explore the Class 1 underground dimensional rifts. At that time, Bei Su could obtain source-type items in the Class 1 underground dimensional rifts and use the edge shadow bat's exclusive skill, the bat-fanged blood, to transform into a blood slave. Bei Su had the qualifications to establish a faction. At that moment, Wen Yu's face was extremely pale, and the cat's eye stone on her forehead had become extremely dim. When Lin Yuan saw Wen Yu's expression, he did not explain for Bei Su and just said affirmatively, "You can do it." Lin Yuan and Wen Yu exchanged glances. Lin Yuan and Wen Yu exchanged glances. After receiving Lin Yuan's affirmation, Wen Yu immediately dismissed the Second Celestial Assembly. Then, Lin Yuan woke up on the training room's chair and looked at the pale Wen Yu beside him. He immediately took out a few pieces of supreme-grade fish clothing that Lu Jia had cooked and roasted from the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box. Lin Yuan handed the fish clothing to Wen Yu and said, "Eat some fish clothing. Eat some of the fish coat. You should feel better after eating the fish coat. Go and have a good sleep. Your spiritual energy will recover when you wake up." Wen Yu took the fish clothing from Lin Yuan's hand with a smile and took a bite. "Young master, Big Brother Lu roasted these angelfish of Bliss's fish clothing with maple syrup. They're quite delicious. Even if I don't overexert my mental strength, I can't help but want to eat a little." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan immediately recalled the time when Genius had eaten the angelfish of Bliss's fish skin. The skin of the angelfish of Bliss that Lu Jia had baked had already changed color due to being brushed with maple syrup. With the addition of some other condiments, Lu Jia felt like he was biting into a butcher's shop. In the beginning, Genius also ate happily. Furthermore, even if Genius didn't expend much of its mental strength, it also wanted to get some fish clothing to eat like Wen Yu. However, ever since Genius found out that it was eating a fish coat, it started to despise the fish coat even though it didn't like eating fish. Every time she concocted the spirit liquid, she would always scrunch up her face and look like she was in a difficult position. However, the speed at which he ate the fish coat was not slow at all. Lin Yuan felt that among all of his contracted phase, Genius was definitely the best troublemaker. Wen Yu, who was eating the fish coat, stretched lazily. "Young master, I really need to have a good sleep. Otherwise, if I expend too much of my mental strength and can't concentrate, the efficiency will be very low even if I do other things now." This time, when young master used the star spirit throne to teleport the item to Bei Su, the Celestial Council absorbed the laws that young master consumed, and the growth it obtained was more than 30 times that of when it absorbed willpower. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan felt much better. Even though Lin Yuan's sacred source life form, the sacred sword-embracing queen, could rely on the princess form's function to easily extract willpower and laws from dead fantasy breed phase and law crystals, willpower and laws were simply too precious. However, willpower and rules were too precious. This kind of consumption of willpower and laws was equivalent to a millionaire constantly throwing gold outside his house. Anyone would feel the pinch, even the wealthy Lin Yuan. Now that Wen Yu's sacred source life form, the Celestial Council, was a second reflection of the value of willpower and laws that Lin Yuan had consumed. Lin Yuan no longer thought about the laws that he had just consumed. Wen Yu went down from the training room on the 3rd floor to the 2nd floor and returned to her room to rest. Just as he was about to step out of the training room, his phone rang. Lin Yuan picked up his cell phone, and his eyes lit up when he realized that the person calling him was none other than Long Tao. He had previously guessed that the Li family's Li Yun Avian Can and the Long family's Coiled Dragon Valley would likely look for him again after he took out the Law Crystal. During the construction of Lin Yuan's mansion, a thick layer of sound-deadening rock had been pasted on the inside of the walls. Thus, even if there was a layer of door, it could perfectly block out the sound. However, according to the agreed time, Li Xian should have arrived by now. Lin Yuan thought that if Long Tao had the intention to talk face to face, he might as well ask him to come over now. Lin Yuan's schedule before the Nix assembly was rather tight. Long Tao and Li Xian would undoubtedly delay a lot of Lin Yuan's time. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard the voice from the other end of the phone. Lin Yuan, your law origin crystal helped my father a lot. When he found out that I got it from you, he asked me to contact you to thank you in person. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan's eyes focused slightly, and he began to ponder. Lin Yuan had not asked Wen Yu to investigate the Long family's Coiled Dragon Valley's information, nor had he seen the Long family's Coiled Dragon Valley experts' biographies. He did not know much about the Long family's situation. However, that small piece of law origin crystal was obviously not enough to let a suzerain/myth 3 Fey become a creation breed. However, it was still possible to guide a Fey stuck at the pinnacle of suzerain/myth 2 to successfully advance to myth 3. Lin Yuan could tell from Long Tao's words that his father wanted to see him. Lin Yuan and Long Tao could be considered friends with similar temperaments and natures. Moreover, Lin Yuan had the intention of using the Golden Lotus brocade to borrow the Long family's Coiled Dragon Valley to suppress the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. Therefore, Lin Yuan naturally rejected seeing Long Tao's father. Lin Yuan had asked Li Xian to bring the Li family's elders to return from faraway mansion so that the other top factions could know what kind of place it was through Li Yun Avian, Kansas. Now, Long Tao actually wanted to bring his father over with the purpose of expressing his gratitude. Naturally, he would put on the heirs of the Long family's Coiled Dragon Valley. The Long family coming to express their gratitude was different from Li Xian quietly visiting with the family's elders. The Long family's lineup was bound to attract the attention of the other top factions in the royal capital. This could also better achieve Lin Yuan's intention of labeling the return from faraway mansion as the Moon Empress Disciples Mansion. The second was even better. End of this chapter. Chapter 792. Looking at Master Duanli's message, Lin Yuan felt that Master Duanli was talking about the same problem. However, Master Duanli seemed to be more concerned about the severity of the problem. Lin Yuan did not reply to Master Duanli's message immediately. Instead, he began to calculate how many radiance dollars he had. Master Duanli became even more anxious when she received no reply to her message. Master Duanli, I didn't know that the Reflection Sun King Lotus would require high-purity spirit qi to heal after splitting. I don't have the resources to compensate you. Can I work to pay off my debt? Lin Yuan had just finished calculating the amount of radiance dollars he had. After consolidating, he found that he only had 22.6 million radiance dollars at his disposal. Moreover, Lin Yuan had spent all the radiance dollars in Cheng Wu's Diamond Fei storage box. Most of the 22.6 million radiance dollars had been earned by selling Feis. The remaining portion was a portion of the profits that Zhou Jessen's store had given to Lin Yuan, and he had never used this amount of money. Lin Yuan could not help but smack his lips when he saw the amount of radiance dollars he could use. During this period, Lin Yuan had mostly been conducting bartering transactions, and he rarely used radiance dollars. Looking at the 22.6 million radiance dollars, Lin Yuan felt that he was still too poor. It seemed that he would not be using radiance dollars for the next transaction. After sorting out his current radiance dollars, Lin Yuan immediately saw Master Duanli's message. Lin Yuan felt that Master Duanli was not only bad, but also stupid. It seemed that Master Duanli had discovered that the Reflection Sun King Lotus needed high-purity spirit qi to heal its damaged tissues when she had cut off the head. Even Lin Yuan, who had already split the Reflection Sun King Lotus into 99 seedlings, did not notice such a situation. It was because Lin Yuan only had high-purity spirit qi. If the Reflection Sun King Lotus needed low-purity spirit qi, it would be difficult for Lin Yuan. Since Master Duanli wanted to work to pay off her debt, Lin Yuan had no reason to refuse. It was too much of a burden for Master Hong Shen to strengthen the angelfish of bliss alone. Master Duanli could help. However, Master Duanli was a class 4 creation master. She was in such a miserable state. He actually had to work to pay off the debt as compensation. Lin Yuan replied to Master Duanli, Deep Mountain Elder Lin, you can work to pay off your debt. Since you've learned your lesson, I won't hold you accountable for damaging the auction items. I hope you'll learn from it next time, or else I'll kick you out of the group. Master Duanli's face darkened when she saw Lin Yuan's reply. After becoming a class 4 creation master, it had been many years since Master Duanli had been criticized like this. However, when he thought about Lin Yuan's unfathomable foundation and how he had indeed underestimated the Sun Reflection King Lotus recovery ability, he realized that this matter had indeed been caused. Master Duanli replied. Master Duanli, how about I work 10 hours a day for you for 2 months to pay off my debt? Is that okay? Lin Yuan looked at Master Duanli's message and did some calculations. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, how long do you need to concoct a 3-star platinum potion? The platinum potion that Lin Yuan had asked Master Duanli about was the spirit solution that Genius had concocted in the Spirit Lock spatial zone to upgrade the angelfish of bliss from gold to platinum. Lin Yuan wanted Master Duanli to enhance the angelfish of bliss that he had already upgraded to bronze/epic. Master Duanli was not one of Lin Yuan's people. This was a serious matter, and Lin Yuan could not mail the angelfish of bliss to Master Duanli. Moreover, Lin Yuan did not know if Master Duanli was related to the Blissful Sea tribe. If the Blissful Sea tribe found out that he was breeding angelfish of bliss, they would immediately notice that he was buying up a large amount of aurora pollen from the market. Therefore, Lin Yuan decided to break the taboo of creation masters and trade with Master Duanli. Master Duanli did not think much of Lin Yuan's message. At the same time, Master Duanli wanted to show off her strength, so she replied in a slightly exaggerated manner. Master Duanli, a regular class 4 creation master would need 2.5 hours to concoct a platinum potion. I can concoct one in 2 hours. Lin Yuan looked at Master Duanli's message and made some calculations. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, if that's the case, you just need to concoct 5 bottles of the platinum potion every day. That's 300 bottles in 2 months. One of the months is a big month. I'll give you a day to rest. You can choose which day to rest. Master Duanli almost choked on her breath at Lin Yuan's words. Master Duanli did not expect Lin Yuan to ask her to concoct a platinum potion that a class 3 creation master could concoct. He was looking down on her as a class 4 creation master. Master Duanli had exaggerated her concoction speed to begin with. If Master Duanli were to concoct a platinum water potion, it would probably take her the same amount of time as a normal class 4 creation master. If she followed Lin Yuan's instructions, Master Duanli would have to work overtime for 2.5 hours every day. Moreover, concocting spirit potions was different from nurturing phase. One could slack off while nurturing phase. Concocting spirit potions was the spirit potion itself, and Lin Yuan had set a limit. Master Duanli could not slack off even if she wanted to. Master Duanli could not help but curse at Lin Yuan in her mind. What kind of freaking big month is a big month? And you're giving me a day off? It's almost February. February was only 28 days long. This was blatant exploitation. Just as Master Duanli was about to reject and suggest that she strengthen phase instead of concocting potions, Lin Yuan sent another message. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, if you have enough time, I'm willing to exchange for more than 300 bottles of platinum potion for 1 Heavenly Maiden Grade Elemental Pearl with the Settled Life Pearl for every 30 bottles. Master Duanli couldn't bring herself to reject Lin Yuan's offer. In the end, Master Duanli could only grit her teeth and reply, okay, 30 bottles of platinum potion for 1 Heavenly Maiden Grade Elemental Pearl with the Settled Life Pearl. This was a deal that Master Duanli could not refuse. Although the price Lin Yuan offered was the market price, such an item, which rarely appeared in the market, could be traded at the market price. That in itself was a great advantage for him. The second was even better. End of this chapter. Chapter 793. Although Li Xian and Lin Yuan had not known each other for a long time, he could feel Lin Yuan's introverted and low-key nature in the process of getting along. After Lin Yuan met Li Xian and Long Tao, he had never mentioned any topic about his identity. When Lin Yuan was pouring the three treasures tea, he mentioned that the pine needles, plum blossoms, and pine nuts were produced in the Leaning Moon Mountain. He was emphasizing his identity to the Grand Elder beside him. Lin Yuan was undoubtedly emphasizing his identity to help him. At the same time, the order in which Lin Yuan poured the tea could be said to be giving him enough face. At that moment, Li Xian simply did not know how to thank Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan had actually done this because he had seen the change in the elder's gaze toward Li Xian. Thus, he had decided to exaggerate and help Li Xian. Lin Yuan, who had lived 2 lives, was very clear about the ways of the world. He just needed one look to understand the meaning in the elder's gaze. If Li Xian could obtain more speaking rights in the Li Yun avian niche because of his help, it would undoubtedly pull up his relationship with Li Xian. On the contrary, if Lin Yuan and Li Xian were on good terms, Li Xian would have more speaking rights in the Li family. When Lin Yuan really needed Li Yun avian niche's help, he would also be able to get more help. The various top factions had built luxurious and imposing mansions in the royal capital. Usually, these mansions were empty. Only when the top faction's direct descendants came to the royal capital for matters would these mansions be occupied. At that moment, 9 majestic dragon roars suddenly echoed above the Long family's coiled Dragon Valley's mansion. 9 nearly 100-meter-long scarlet gold flood dragons soared into the sky. However, these 9 nearly 100-meter-long scarlet gold flood dragons were different from ordinary flood dragon phase. These 9 scarlet gold flood dragons had bone shields that only dinosaur species phase would have. The 9 scarlet gold flood dragons' bodies were not as light and elegant as flood dragon phase. Instead, they were full of a majestic and thick feeling. The scarlet gold flood dragons' heads looked very similar to the dinosaur species phase heads, the blood Tyrannosaurus heads. The 9 massive heads had dozens of sharp dragon teeth. Not only did their necks not have elegant manes, but they also had a pile of sinister and ostentatious bone spurs. These 9 dragon species phase, which resembled WYRM species phase but had dinosaur species phase, were the scarlet gold soaring dragons that the Long family's coiled Dragon Valley had specially nurtured. Among ancient dragon species phase, purebred WYRM species phase and purebred dinosaur species phase were qualified to metamorphose into dragon species phase. Due to the mutual restriction and conflict between the 2 bloodlines, it was very difficult for the flood dragon and dinosaur hybrids to improve their bloodlines. However, the red gold soaring dragon bred by the Long family was a surprise. The scarlet gold soaring dragon had the ferocity of the dinosaur bloodline and the agility of the flood dragon bloodline. Even if it was a hybrid bloodline, it still had the ability to become a main dragon species fae. At this moment, among the 9 scarlet gold soaring dragons in the sky, 3 of them were even more beautiful and majestic. They were already in the process of transforming into main dragon species. The 9 scarlet gold dragons were connected to a majestic pavilion by chains. This majestic golden pavilion was carved with countless dragon-shaped fays. The golden pavilion was pulled by the 9 scarlet gold dragons and galloped into the distance. The combination of the golden pavilion and the 9 scarlet gold dragons was the Long family's coiled Dragon Valley's most famous soaring dragon carriage. Normally, it would only be used when the Long family visited the coiled Dragon Valley's important figures. The number of scarlet gold dragons pulling the soaring dragon carriage often represented the Long family's etiquette. When the Long family visited the Moon Empress Radiant Moon Palace, the Chef Supreme's kitchen fragrance residence, and the Bamboo Monarch's purple bamboo garden, they would let 10 scarlet gold dragons pull the carriage together. Even when the Long family visited other pinnacle factions that they were not familiar with, they would only use 7 scarlet gold dragons. The 8 scarlet gold dragons would only be used when the Long family visited a few pinnacle factions or in-laws that they were very familiar with. Even though the 9 scarlet gold dragons pulling the carriage were one less than the top 10, it was the first time in the Long family's coiled dragon valley that 9 scarlet gold dragons pulled the soaring dragon carriage. The Long family's soaring dragon carriage had been showing off along the way, attracting the attention of many pinnacle factions that had come to the royal capital to attend the Nyx assembly. On one hand, these pinnacle factions were surprised that the Long family would actually use 9 dragons to pull the carriage. On the other hand, they were also curious about who the Long family was visiting with such a lineup. Lin Yuan was currently chatting with Li Xian and Li Yun Miao and I. Li Xian and Li Yun Miao and I were not in a hurry to say the purpose of this trip. In their opinion, the Long family would definitely talk about cooperation and transactions when they arrived, and it would not be too late to talk about it in detail then. Not long after, 9 dragon roars sounded outside Lin Yuan's manor. The mother of Bloodbath left the manor in a flash and arrived at the manor's entrance. The mother of Bloodbath looked at the 9 scarlet gold dragons pulling the carriage and felt the majestic blood energy within them. It only felt that the 9 spicy strips in front of it looked very delicious. The mother of Bloodbath walked in with Long Tao and his father, Long Tuesday. As soon as Long Tu saw Lin Yuan, before Lin Yuan could take the initiative to speak, he had already stepped to Lin Yuan's side and extended his hand. "Little friend, thank you for giving Tao, the law crystal. Not only did that law crystal help me a lot, but it also solved a problem that had been bothering me for many years." Long Tao walked in with a smile on his face, but when he heard what his father, Long Tu, said to Lin Yuan, he looked embarrassed. In the past, he had only heard of sons deceiving their fathers. Since when did fathers start to deceive their sons? If his father called Lin Yuan a little friend and Lin Yuan agreed, wouldn't he have to call Lin Yuan uncle? Long Tao imagined the scene of himself calling Lin Yuan uncle and only felt that his entire body was about to wither. Lin Yuan was also stunned by Long Tu's little friend, and hurriedly helped Long Tu to sit on the sofa. "I feel very happy to be able to help Uncle Long." After saying that, Lin Yuan gave a look to Long Tao, who was not far away. Long Tao hurriedly walked over and sat beside Long Tuesday. He pulled back Long Tu's extended hand and said with some annoyance, "Dad, do you think you're too old to call Lin Yuan a little friend? Dad, do you think you are too old to call young friend Lin Yuan? Do you want to be my brother?" Long Tu pulled his hand out of Long Tao's hand and rolled his eyes at him. "What old? Your mother doesn't even think I'm old." Lin Yuan poured 2 cups of 3 treasures tea for Long Tao and Long Tuesday. Li Xian looked at Long Tao and Long Tu from the side and could not help but feel envious. Long Tao's words could be considered very overstepping his boundaries, but Long Tu did not have the slightest intention of blaming Long Tao. This showed Long Tu's love for Long Tao. In the Li family, although Li Yun Miao Can was the oldest direct descendant and his mother took good care of him, Li Xian did not seem to have felt much love from his father. In his memory, Li Xian did not seem to have felt much love from his father. The first was even more. End of this chapter. Chapter 794. However, Lin Yuan was not able to collect the celestial river stones as he wished. It was not that no one in the group was willing to trade celestial river stones with Lin Yuan. It was because the person who traded celestial river stones with Lin Yuan could only provide around 50 caddies of celestial river stones. The rest of the group members could only provide a few dozen caddies of celestial river stones. Lin Yuan planned to use the Cloud Dream Lake's heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls to exchange for 3 tons of celestial river stones. As for the amount provided by the group members, Lin Yuan could not use the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls to pay. Even if Lin Yuan was willing to crush the Cloud Dream Lake heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls into powder for the trade, the group members who provided the celestial river stones would not agree. When the purity of the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls was above 95%, their effects were not much different. The reason why the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls were so sought after was because of the beauty of the pearls. If they were crushed into powder, the beauty of the pearls would be destroyed. It would cause the originally beautiful pearls to lose their value. Moreover, Lin Yuan needed the celestial river stones to pave the bottom of the hidden flood dragon lake. The weight of the celestial river stones was even more than the weight of the revival soil and the wood nurturing clay combined. With such a huge amount of celestial river stones, Lin Yuan's best method was to find a faction to complete the trade in one go. This made Lin Yuan suddenly think of the veteran faction, the Sea of Bliss. The Sea of Bliss's Star Web private faction territory was paved with celestial river stones. However, the celestial river stones used by the Sea of Bliss to pave the ground did not meet Lin Yuan's requirements. The purity of the celestial river stones needed to at least reach the level of the Sea of Bliss's Immortal Bliss plaque. The Immortal Bliss plaque was a kind of consumable for the Sea of Bliss. If others bought the Sea of Bliss's Immortal Bliss plaque as a ticket to buy the Angelfish of Bliss, it was equivalent to buying a plaque made of celestial river stones at a price several times the market price. Therefore, the veteran faction, the Sea of Bliss, must have accumulated a lot of celestial river stones. Lin Yuan calculated in his heart. Since he had already reached an agreement with the Blissful Sea tribe, since he had reached an agreement with the Sea of Bliss, the Sea of Bliss wouldn't reject him, right? However, Lin Yuan did not know that the entire Sea of Bliss had become anxious because of the agreement with Sky City. At this time, in the southern part of Still Flow City, in a mansion built by the sea, a man with a somewhat feminine face but a long beard slammed the table 5 times and said angrily, "You're going too far." The Miao family's beast creation garden is too overbearing. Beside this somewhat feminine man with a hairy beard sat a young man with slender eyes and thin lips. Seeing that his father was so angry, the thin-lipped youth glared fiercely at the blue-robed man kneeling by his feet. The blue-robed man, Feng Qi, lowered his head, feeling extremely wronged. "I was the one who asked my master about the collaboration with Sky City. The cooperation between the Blissful Sea tribe and Sky City would greatly strengthen the Blissful Sea tribe." At that time, Master and Young Master were overjoyed, and they made the decision to cooperate with Sky City at all costs. However, when he returned in triumph, the celebration banquet was only halfway through, and the old master immediately turned hostile when he received the news. Sky City and the Beast Creation Garden had a conflict because of the Sun family's due Immortal Garden. This had only happened after they had collaborated with the Blissful Ocean tribe. Who would have thought of such a situation? In Feng Qi's eyes, compared to the suppression of the Blissful Ocean tribe by the Beast Creation Garden, Sky City was more helpful. However, in the eyes of the Blissful Ocean tribe, Sky City was more helpful to the Blissful Ocean tribe. However, this matter concerned the internal decisions of the Blissful Ocean tribe, so Feng Qi couldn't interfere at all. The thin-lipped youth glared at Feng Qi, then looked at his father. After thinking for a while, he spoke. "Father, the Beast Creation Garden unilaterally cut off a few collaborations with the Blissful Ocean tribe. It's extremely overbearing. I remember that many of the collaborations between the Blissful Ocean tribe and the Beast Creation Garden were guaranteed and signed by the spirit guards." The thin-lipped youth didn't continue. However, the thin-lipped youth's words made the feminine middle-aged man's expression change. The feminine middle-aged man looked at the thin-lipped youth and said, "Hai Tao, you've grown up too. Since you have an opinion, why don't you tell me in detail?" The thin-lipped youth called Hai Tao heard his father's words, and a scheming glint flashed in his eyes. "Our Blissful Ocean tribe relied on the Angelfish of Blissful to grow from a rising faction to a veteran faction. After growing into a veteran faction, apart from nurturing the Angelfish of Blissful, our Blissful Ocean tribe also nurtured some other aquatic phase. By relying on the other aquatic phase, the Blissful Ocean tribe slowly became an elite veteran faction. However, our Blissful Ocean tribe's foundation is ultimately the Angelfish of Blissful. We are able to stand tall because we have a monopoly on the Angelfish of Blissful business. Even if there are examples of Angelfish of Blissful being sold in the market, those are wild Angelfish of Blissful that were caught by chance. Even if those wild Angelfish of Blissful that were caught coincidentally laid eggs during the flood season, without our Blissful Ocean tribe's special elixirs, no one will be able to hatch the eggs into young fish. For the past few years, our blissful ocean tribe's development has been limited by the lack of creation master resources. It can be said that our creation masters have spent all their efforts on nurturing the angelfish of blissful. As a result, our blissful ocean tribe's other aquatic fays have to rely on the resources of other factions' creation masters. For this, we have to fork out a huge sum of resources every year. This time, the Meow family's beast creation garden suppression of the blissful ocean tribe is the same as cutting off our other aquatic fays business. Even if we cut off our relationship with Sky City now, given the Meow family's overbearing nature, they will definitely continue to vent their anger on us. It will not be as smooth as before in terms of cooperation. What I mean is to tighten the relationship between Sky City and our blissful ocean tribe. After that, we will cut off our other phase business and focus on nurturing the angelfish of blissful. If we seize this opportunity and operate for over a decade, our blissful ocean tribe might even qualify to become a top faction. The Meow family will definitely not expect our blissful ocean tribe to have such a plan. When the time comes, we will take the contract with the Meow family to the spirit guards to settle it. The Meow family will have to give our blissful ocean tribe a huge sum of compensation. With this compensation, it will be the Meow family paying for our blissful ocean tribe's business transformation. No matter how overbearing the Meow family is, they will never be as overbearing as the spirit guards. The first one was even worse. End of this chapter. Chapter 795. Shi Wangyang was expressionless when he heard Chi Haitao's words. However, when he heard Chi Haitao talk about the Ocean of Bliss business transformation, he could not help but frown. Especially when he heard Chi Haitao mention becoming a top-notch faction, Chi Wangyang's eyes were filled with an astonishing ambition. Chi Wangyang stroked his beard and fell into deep thought. Any veteran faction would have the dream of becoming a top-notch faction. The Ocean of Bliss did not have such a foundation in the past. However, after hearing his son's words, Chi Wangyang felt that this was indeed an opportunity. Unlike Chi Haitao, who was fearless, Chi Wangyang, who was the leader of the Ocean of Bliss veteran faction, understood the terror of a top-notch faction. If the Ocean of Bliss did not become a top-notch faction after the spirit guards went to the Meow family's beast creation garden, they would have to be wary of the Meow family's beast creation garden. If the Ocean of Bliss did not become a top-notch faction, they would have to be wary of being bitten to death by the Meow family's beast creation garden. After pondering for a moment, Chi Wangyang spoke conservatively. Haitao, bring Feng Chi to Sky City personally and see if we can complete a deal as soon as possible. As for the Meow family's beast creation garden, we will wait until the first deal with Sky City before making further plans. If the cooperation with Sky City can really push the Ocean of Bliss to a higher level, it won't be too late to let the Meow family's beast creation garden pay for our business transformation. Upon hearing his father's words, Chi Haitao knew that Chi Wangyang had agreed with his idea. However, his father had always been very conservative and did not want to easily stand on the opposite side of the beast creation garden. After saying that, Chi Wangyang stood up from his seat. He walked to Feng Chi, who was kneeling on the ground, and helped Feng Chi up to comfort him. Feng Chi felt as though his heart had been on a roller coaster when he was helped up from the ground. After experiencing so many ups and downs in a day, Feng Chi's heart could not take it anymore. Moreover, as he looked at Chi Wangyang, who was comforting him gently, Feng Chi felt abnormally terrified. Compared to being strict, being moody was often more frightening. After completing the deal with Wang Fuxiang and getting rid of top student, he was ready to leave the group chat. After all, Lin Yuan had achieved his goal. Before leaving, he pondered for a moment. Then, another group announcement was made. Group announcement: from now on, group members who have entered the group are not allowed to reveal any information other than the group welfare auction. Those who are found to have done so will be kicked out of the group. After sending this group announcement, he went straight to his Star Web Private Force territory. He had also set up authority inside and outside the faction. People and factions that were not invited by Sky City could only enter Sky City's private faction territory from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. every day to snatch the fate letter. For the rest of the time, Sky City's private territory was not open to the public. Now that the functions of the Sky Castle had been announced, it was bound to attract a large number of onlookers. Moreover, Lin Yuan did not care about lists like the visitor's roll at all. So many things had happened in the territory of Sky City's private forces today, including the conflict between two top forces. Sky Castle should be able to firmly occupy the hot list tomorrow. When you had not returned yet, and there was no one to manage the private territory of Sky City. In addition, Sky City was taking a mysterious route, and Lin Yuan did not want the inside and outside of Sky City to be as lively as a vegetable market. Lin Yuan had just issued such a harsh announcement in the group because he realized that he had appeared in the purchase with no law store wearing a strange mask. He was waiting for Sky City's popularity to explode. If someone with ulterior motives in the group found out and leaked it, very soon, people would guess the relationship between purchase with no law store and Sky City. Fortunately, not many group members had seen Lin Yuan's image. After today, Lin Yuan did not plan to often walk around in the private faction territory. Lin Yuan thought that his identity should not be leaked in a short time. Lin Yuan was not afraid that someone would associate Sky City with the purchase with no law store. In fact, even if no one contacted him, Lin Yuan would integrate the network established by Sky City in purchase with no law store after a period of time. However, these 2 months were not a good opportunity because Lin Yuan was still plotting against the Blissful Sea clan. A faction's reputation and strength did not only look at the resources it controlled. This faction's reputation was often piled up by major events. The Blissful Sea clan was the stepping stone for Sky City's first major event. Lin Yuan checked the news in the private faction territory and was about to contact the blue-robed man, Feng Qi, who had finalized the cooperation with him. He found that Feng Qi had sent him several messages. Feng Qi, are you there? I want to talk to Sky City in detail about the future cooperation. Feng Qi, we, the Blissful Sea clan, want to complete the first deal with Sky City as soon as possible. I wonder how many pregnant angelfish of Blissful you can raise from flawless to epic at one time. Feng Qi, if it's convenient, let's meet in real life and talk face to face. From the message, Lin Yuan could feel that Feng Qi was very anxious. Otherwise, Feng Qi would not have sent a message every 10 minutes at night. The Blissful Sea clan was anxious to talk to him about cooperation, and Lin Yuan happened to want to get some celestial river stones from them. The Blissful Sea clan's initiative saved Lin Yuan the trouble of contacting them. Lin Yuan replied, I'm in the territory. I'm in the territory. We can talk now. As soon as Lin Yuan sent the message, he got a reply from Feng Qi. Feng Qi of the Blissful Ocean Tribe, great. We'll go now. Lin Yuan was slightly startled when he saw Feng Qi's reply. Then the corners of his mouth curled up. It seemed that the Blissful Sea clan's real people were coming. At that moment, Lin Yuan received another message from Feng Qi. Feng Qi, our young family master is blocked outside Sky City's territory. Please grant him permission. Lin Yuan immediately granted permission to the Blissful Sea clan's young family master. At the same time, Feng Qi's title of young family master piqued Lin Yuan's interest. If a faction's direct descendants had many names and were qualified to inherit the faction, they could only be called young master or young lady. Therefore, these direct descendants could only be called young master or young lady. Gao Feng, the only direct descendant of the younger generation, would be called young family master when he was addressed by the Gao family servants. It seemed that the Blissful Sea clan situation was somewhat similar to the Gao families. There was only one direct descendant in the younger generation. Soon, Lin Yuan saw a short man with long eyes and thin lips beside the blue-robed Feng Qi. Lin Yuan sat in his seat and did not take the initiative to greet the Blissful Sea clan's young family master. When Qi Haidao, who came with Feng Qi, saw that Sky City's interior was decorated with hundreds of bronze/epic fays and the bronze/legend oath lily of the valley on the table, his eyes lit up. The second was even more. End of this chapter. Chapter 796. Li Yunniao couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air when he heard this. 600 golden lotus brocades in a month, what kind of extravagance was that? However, Black Cloud Bird Grand Elder started to worry. According to the previous exchange price of the golden lotus brocade, one golden lotus brocade could be exchanged for every 30 law origin crystals. In that case, he and the Coiling Dragon Valley would have to fork out 18,000 Law's origin crystals for the 600 golden lotus stalks. Even if Law origin crystals were useless to him, Tier 7 dimensional creatures weren't that easy to kill. The 600 golden lotus brocade seedlings that Lin Yuan had mentioned earlier would be shared between him and the Coiling Dragon Valley. The Coiling Dragon Valley had plenty of creation master resources, so they would naturally get a bigger share of the golden lotus brocade seedlings. Coiling Dragon Valley would probably have to go through a lot of trouble to come up with so many Law origin crystals. But very quickly, First Elder Li Yunniao felt that his face had been slapped by Long Tuesday. Li Yunniao and I, Grand Elder, only heard Long Tu's words. Based on the previous deal of 30 Law origin crystals, our Long family should be able to take all 600 golden lotus brocade stalks. Haha. The extreme daylight Tyrannosauruses that our Long family nurtures need to consume large amounts of high-grade dimensional lifeforms' flesh every day. Thus, our Long family has joined forces with the 5 Thearchs Mercenary Corps to control 8 class 4 dimensional rifts all year round. We can clear out quite a lot of Law origin crystals every year. Over the past 100 years, our Long family still has quite a lot of Law origin crystals in storage. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up when he heard that. At that moment, Elder Li Yunniao wrinkled his nose and said, "That's right. Our Dawn Cloud Bird Cage can eat a little of these 600 golden lotus stalks, but we must eat at least 200 of them. Our Li family should be able to gather 6,000 Law origin crystals." As he said this, the great elder of Li Yunniao had already decided to give the 4th elder, who was in charge of Li Yunniao's warehouse, a good beating. Back then, if 4th elder hadn't felt that the Law origin crystals were useless and had used a large portion of them in exchange for cash flow to expand the flying species Fey breeding base, 4th elder wouldn't have been able to do so. It would not be a problem for the Li clan to consume 300 golden lotus seedlings. However, Li Yunniao's great elder also understood that taking 200 golden lotus brocade stalks was already Li Yunniao's limit. It wasn't that the Aurora Cloud Avian Cage couldn't obtain Law origin crystals from the outside world. If it wanted Law origin crystals, it could use rare resources that only the Aurora Cloud Avian Cage had to exchange with other factions. It was just that Li Yunniao had always been attached to the Long family in the early years, and had relied on the Long family's help to become a top force 40 years ago. Therefore, in this matter, Li Yun and Niao Ken could only take a small lead. Long Tu looked at Li Yunniao Grand Elder and laughed. "Of course, 200 golden lotus brocade stalks will do. If you don't have enough Law origin crystals, our Long family can lend you some." When Lin Yuan sensed the way the Li family's Grand Elder and Long Tu handled things, he could not help but have a higher opinion of Li Yun Bird Niche and the Coiling Dragon Valley. Lin Yuan's main purpose of sharing 600 pots of golden lotus brocade plants with the Coiling Dragon Valley and Li Yun Bird Niche was to see how the two factions handled things. What Lin Yuan saw was a person who was willing to give in and a promise to give back very quickly after the other party was willing to give in. Even if Lin Yuan's identity as the Moon Empress disciple could be used as an absolute guarantee when dealing with any top faction, he would not be taken advantage of by the other faction. However, it was undoubtedly much more comfortable to work with a faction that knew when to advance and retreat and was willing to give. Lin Yuan was well aware of the Zither's production capacity. The Zither could produce 24 to 25 pots of golden lotus brocade plants in a day. Its actual production capacity was 750 pots in a month, far exceeding the number that Lin Yuan had given to the Coiling Dragon Valley and Li Yun Bird Niche. Based on Longtu's words, if he released more golden lotus brocade pearls, the coiling dragon valley would be very willing to take it. When the transaction was completed a month later, 16,000 law origin crystals would be in his account. In addition to obtaining a few worlds derived from laws, his sacred source life form, the sacred sword embracing queen, would definitely have a qualitative leap in star class. It was already a done deal that it would become a 2-star sacred sword embracing queen. It was very likely that the queen would become a 3-star sacred sword and obtain new functions. After this transaction, the Miao family's beast creation garden would probably not be able to sleep peacefully no matter what. Once the Long family had a large number of golden lotus brocade pearls, the Miao family's beast creation garden's fundamental functions would be cruelly suppressed by the coiling dragon valley. It was equivalent to directly shaking the Miao family's beast creation garden's foundation and influence. In addition, the Miao family's beast creation garden's coveting of the Sun family's Do Immortal nursery would certainly not get what they wanted. At that time, the Miao family's Do Immortal nursery and the Long family's coiling dragon valley would probably not have the time to find trouble with Sky City. A month later, with the injection of 18,000 law origin crystals, Sky City's top combat power would directly usher in a qualitative change. There was no longer any suspense for Endless Summer and the Mother of Bloodbath to become creation breeds. There was even a large number of law origin crystals that could allow the Mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer to break through from the first tribulation of creation to the second tribulation or even the third tribulation. After talking about the Golden Lotus Brocade, Long Tu and Li Yun Bird Niche had no intention of leaving. Lin Yuan knew that they were waiting for the other party or him to take the initiative to mention the law origin crystals that contained pure power of law. Unlike the Golden Lotus Brocade pearls, Lin Yuan did not intend to take the initiative to mention the law origin crystals. This time, Lin Yuan had obtained an unprecedented harvest from the Golden Lotus Brocade pearls transaction. As long as he continued to update the Golden Lotus Brocade pearls versions, Lin Yuan's money and resources would be endless. Under such circumstances, Lin Yuan no longer needed to rely on law origin crystals to obtain resources for himself. He had decided to put more law origin crystals for internal use and leave them for his true allies. After Endless Summer and the Mother of Bloodbath became creation breeds, there would definitely be a large number of law origin crystals in Lin Yuan's hands. However, as his, Chu Xi, Lu Jia, Wen Yu, Duan He, Master Hong Shen, and even Hu Quan's strength increased, the number of law origin crystals would not be enough no matter how many he prepared. When he reached Myth 3, the Fays that could use law origin crystals were Genius, Chimey, Red Thorn, the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee, the Ethereal Jellyfish, the Source Sand, the Jasmine Lily, Little Black, the Blue Flash Purple Butterfly, Gray, Silver Splendor, the Zither, and the Unhatched Floating Island Whale. After calculating, there were already as many as 12 units. As Morbius grade increased, he would be able to spirit lock on more Fays. Now, Lin Yuan could also use his spiritual energy to contract another Fey. After the Cinnabar Osmanthus Haworthia ripened, Lin Yuan's spiritual energy would increase, and he could also increase the number of contracts. In this way, just his consumption of law origin crystals gave Lin Yuan an incomparable headache. The first one was even worse. End of this chapter. Chapter 797. A vast expanse of land was densely covered with jagged rocks. Most of these rocks were already dry and cracked, as if they hadn't been soaked by rain for hundreds of years. A gust of wind whistled past, and the violent gale smashed a jagged rock into smithereens like a hammer. The gale swept the crushed rocks into other rocks, and soon, a storm of crushed rocks was set off. The surface world was barren, but the underground world contained a different kind of vitality. However, no matter how rich the vitality of this underground world was, there was no sun. Fortunately, some of the ores could emit a faint glow, so the underground world didn't look completely gray. At this moment, a continuous series of chiseling sounds came from a mine in the underground world. There was also a sky full of curses, and from time to time, miserable howls and begging for mercy could be heard. But every time the miserable howls and begging for mercy sounded, the curses would become even more intense. The sound of a whip suddenly sounded in the sky full of curses, and the sudden sound of the whip actually suppressed the continuous chiseling sounds in an instant. Suddenly, a thin and weak youth in ragged clothes ran out of the mine, his body dripping with whip marks. Behind the youth, a fat man with a black panther on his leash chased after him. The fat man who chased out of the mine did not continue to chase, but looked at the thin and weak youth mockingly. At this moment, the youth had already lined up in front of a protective belt made of charcoal fire that was nearly 4 meters long. The youth glanced at the fat man and the black panther behind him, and gritted his teeth as he stepped into the charcoal fire with his bare feet. Enduring the burning of the charcoal fire, he ran as fast as he could out of the protective belt formed by the charcoal fire. Just as the young man was about to run across the 4-meter-long charcoal protective belt with his burnt feet, a roar and a wind blade with sharp claws slashed at the young man's back. The youth fell directly into the rapid and cold underground river outside the protective belt. The fat man looked at the youth who fell into the underground river and cursed angrily. Bad luck. Cave Shadow Panther, why didn't you aim your claws a little more? Next time, I'll definitely hit these bastards' brains. The underground river had washed the youth to a protruding rock pillar at some point. The injury on the young man's back slammed into the rock pillar, causing the young man to wake up in pain. Seizing this opportunity, the young man hugged the rock pillar in the turbulent underground river and climbed up the rock pillar with all his might. After climbing to the top of the rock pillar, the young man directly fell onto the rock wall that was less than a square meter from the top of the rock pillar. The claw wounds on his back and the soles of his feet burned all the way to his calves, making the young man feel as though his soul was about to shatter. The night in the underground world was unusually cold, not to mention that the young man had been soaking in the ice-cold underground river for a long time. This caused the young man's body and injuries to become numb in the cold. The youth stretched out his palms, looked at his own hands, and used all his strength to clench them tightly. A pitch-black, blade-like willpower condensed on the youth's fists as he murmured softly. I, Bei Su, want revenge. I want to avenge Dad, Mom, and Sis. If I can take revenge, I, Bei Su, am willing to exchange everything for it. At this point, the youth named Bei Su suddenly laughed self-deprecatingly. Tears rolled down from the young man's reddened eyes. He was born as a human, but in the end, it seemed that everything he had was nothing more than zero. In the cold and darkness, the young man's consciousness gradually weakened. In the end, he closed his eyes heavily. In an extremely luxurious palace, a young girl was flipping through a book. However, while flipping through the book, the young girl's eyes weren't fixed on the book, but were covered by a white ribbon. The young girl straightened her chest, her head was facing forward, and her bearing was unusually elegant. The young girl's fingers stroked the thick book on her thigh, but this book was different from ordinary books. Ordinary books had lines of beautiful words written on flat paper. However, the pages of the book that the young girl was stroking were made of wooden planks, and every word on the planks was carved into protrusions. The young girl carefully stroked the pages made of wooden planks. Perhaps because she had been stroking it for a long time, the words that were stroked by the young girl were dyed a faint red. At this moment, a woman wearing a black and white maid costume walked in and said respectfully with a soft voice. Miss, Master and Madam have invited you to a banquet. The woman in the black and white maid costume bowed, but didn't get a response for a long time. The woman in the maid costume raised her head and walked to the side of the young girl with the white ribbon over her eyes. The maid knew that the young miss was engrossed in reading again. When the maid walked to the side of the young girl with the ribbon over her eyes, she saw the blood on the pages. The maid immediately showed a distressed expression. The maid gently took the special book from the hands of the young girl with the white ribbon over her eyes. She hurriedly untied a few translucent bandages from her wrist and wrapped them around the fingers of the young girl with the ribbon over her eyes. She said, Miss, you promised Cece that you wouldn't read for more than 2 hours in the future. Fortunately, Cece prepared healing bandages with hemostasis in advance. Otherwise, Master and Madam would be distressed when they see Miss Fingers during dinner. The young girl with the ribbon over her eyes allowed the maid named Cece to bandage her fingers, and then used her palm to gently touch the maid's eyebrows. After confirming that it was someone else, the young girl with the ribbon over her eyes changed her calm expression and changed into a cheerful tone. Cece, I read in the book that the jade water dolphin is blue, and the iris curse butterfly is purple. Mother said that the sky is blue, and the amethyst is purple. At this point, the young girl with the ribbon over her eyes was a little disappointed. But Mother didn't tell me what color blue is and what color purple is. When Cece heard the words of the young girl with the ribbon over her eyes, she felt an indescribable sourness and heartache in her heart. For someone who was blind, she had never seen the blue of the sky and the purple of the amethyst. She didn't even have the concept of color. Therefore, no matter how she described it, it was just empty talk. Even if Master and Madam gave the best to the young miss still had the talent to become a spirit chi professional. The young miss had even comprehended 2 willpower runes at a young age. However, she still couldn't see. The contracted fae had become a burden instead. The maid Cece racked her brains for a long time, and her eyes suddenly lit up. Miss, you can try to think of it this way. Blue is what makes you happy, and purple is what surprises you. When the young girl with the ribbon over her eyes heard that, she let out a light laugh. The young girl's laughter was like a lark, and it made people feel as though their bodies and minds were healed. Then Cece must be blue, and the strawberry jam that I ate last night must be purple. Every time I think of Cece, I feel very happy. The strawberry jam that Mother made last night made me feel very surprised. At this point, the young girl with the ribbon over her face reached out her hand. She used her palm to cover her eyes and said softly in her heart, I want to see the color of the sky, the amethyst, the jade water dolphin, the iris curse butterfly, and the strawberry jam that Mother made. I also want to see Father, Mother, Grandpa Butler, and Cece. If it can be realized, I, Ian Lin, am willing to exchange everything for it. The first time was even better. End of this chapter. Chapter 798. The Divine Wood Federation that Lin Yuan was going to next had mostly plant species and insect species phase. Plant species phase and insect species phase occupied almost 90% of the Divine Wood Federation's phase species. Most plant-type phase and insect-type phase had the ability to release toxins. With the Myth 3 poison-type law crystal, it would be safer for him to train in the Divine Wood Federation. By the time the princess used the law source crystal to upgrade the Myth 3 poison law into a poison world, ordinary poisons would probably have no effect on him. At that time, he could even be said to be truly immune to poison. After saying his bottom line, Long Tu stared firmly into Lin Yuan's eyes. After watching for a long time, he found that Lin Yuan's eyes did not have the slightest ripple after hearing about Myth 3's poison-type law crystal. Long Tu could not help but hold his breath. However, Long Tu did not intend to increase the stakes again. As the head of the Coiling Dragon Valley, he had already set the bottom line during the transaction, so there was no reason for him to push the bottom line further. Although the bottom line couldn't be pushed back, the Long family had many things that could replace Suzerain/Myth 3 poison-type law crystals. Long Tu spoke again. Apart from Myth 3's poison law crystals, Myth 2's dark law crystals and water law crystals are also fine. The dark element law crystal at the peak of Myth 2 is gray shadow law, and the water element law crystal is flow speed law. Actually, the poison law of that Myth 3 poison law crystal is very good. It's the fierce poison law of the poison law. As long as it isn't a myth breed poison type fae that relies on spiritual toxins to harm the target, most of them can be absorbed. Speaking of this, Long Tu suddenly felt a little silly. Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple and could easily take out 3 law crystals. Even if Lin Yuan really had a poison type fae, he would consume the law crystal and not choose to devour a Myth 3 vicious poison law crystal. On the other hand, even if the vicious poison law was very popular among poison-type faes, it still couldn't change the fact that it was a minority. When Lin Yuan heard Long Tu say that the Myth 3 poison-type law crystal contained the ferocious poison law, even though he was still suppressing his joy, the corners of his mouth could not help but curl up slightly. When Long Tu mentioned the Myth 3 poison-type law crystal, Lin Yuan was also afraid of the poison-type direction. Even if unilateral poison-type laws like the acid poison law, the blood poison law, and the decay poison law were useful to him, they did not reach the standard for Princess to use the energy absorbed from the law origin crystal to enhance them. This was because the enhancement of these Kalingzi's poison laws could only enhance one aspect of Lin Yuan's poison resistance. However, it could not increase his poison resistance as a whole. However, the ferocious poison law was different. The ferocious poison law encompassed the vast majority of poison types. He had upgraded the vicious poison law, which could make him immune to acid poison, blood poison, decay poison, and more poisons. Even if the immunity to specific poisons was not as good as the effect of specific poison-type laws, it was enough for him. As for the Pinnacle Suzerain/Myth 2 Dark Element Grey Shadow Law and the Pinnacle Suzerain/Myth 2 Water Flow Law, he did not take them to heart at all. He now had the Dark Death Law, which had top-notch lethality, and the Dead Dream Law, which had a good control effect. He naturally did not need the Grey Shadow Law, which was far inferior to the Dark Death Law and the Dead Dream Law. In his opinion, it was enough for him to increase 2 law runes in his darkness attribute. Princess Duan He's skirt wasn't lacking in water element laws. After all, Duan He had destroyed the horned grey whale's nest. Lin Yuan absorbed 3 piles of law crystal fragments from different horned grey whales at once. The horned grey whale's law crystal was incomplete and could not be enhanced by Lin Yuan. However, the water element flow speed law was also not worth it for Lin Yuan to improve after absorbing it. The flow speed law wore the skin of the water element law, but in the end, it represented speed in water. As long as he did not go into the sea to escape or track the enemy in the future, this flow speed law would not be of any use. Therefore, Lin Yuan gave up decisively. Lin Yuan said directly to Long Tuesday, "I'll choose the Suzerain/Myth 3 law crystal." After saying that, he handed a law crystal to Long Tuesday. Long Tu took the law crystal and said solemnly after taking a few glances at it, "I will immediately send someone from Ascending Dragon City to send you the poison-type law crystals and the 17 pots of golden lotus brocade pearls. In the following month, the Coiling Dragon Valley will trade a total of 400 pots of golden lotus brocade stalks. That's a total of 12,000 law origin crystals. The Coiling Dragon Valley can bring out 12,000 law's origin crystals now. I'll get someone to bring them over in the next 2 days." After trading for a law crystal, Long Tu decided to express his desire to be on good terms with Lin Yuan. Even if Long Tu was not sure what Lin Yuan needed so many law origin crystals for, as the Moon Empress disciple, Lin Yuan would not cheat the Coiled Dragon Valley of law origin crystals. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan raised his eyes and looked at Long Tuesday. After looking at each other for a moment, Lin Yuan's face revealed a sunny smile. Lin Yuan said softly, "Uncle Long, the golden lotus brocade is just the beginning. I hope we can cooperate more in the future." Lin Yuan's words made Long Tu, the current head of the Long family, look happy and excited. Being able to cooperate more with Lin Yuan would only be beneficial to the Coiling Dragon Valley. If there was something similar to today's golden lotus brocade stalks, Lin Yuan could think of the Long family in advance. Then, the Long family would be far ahead of the other factions in terms of strategy. Li Yun Avian Domain's Grand Elder was looking at Long Tu angrily and could not help but curse in his heart. Long Tu had not asked before, but now that he had asked and said that he could open Li Yun Avian Domain's treasury. Long Tu took out a Suzerain/Myth 3 law crystal to exchange for the law crystal in Lin Yuan's hand. The Coiling Dragon Valley had a large business, and the Long family, which had creation masters as its core, was like a pea show that could only enter and not exit. With abundant creation master resources, they could accumulate resources like crazy. However, Liyun Avian Domain was different. Liyun Avian Domain had been constantly expanding in the 40 years since it became a top faction, occupying the market for flying fays. It strengthened its monopoly on flying fays. In the past, every step of Liyun Avian Domain's layout of the market consumed a lot of cash flow. During the continuous expansion, Liyun Avian Domain's treasury could no longer take out things like the Suzerain/Myth 3 Law Crystal. Third, end of this chapter. Chapter 799. However, after spending a lot of resources for development in the past 40 years, Liyun Avian Niche's layout for flying fays had been completely unfolded. In the future, it could accumulate resources and develop like the Long family. At that moment, Liyun Avian Niche was really afraid that Lin Yuan would refuse the 2 law crystals he had originally promised after seeing the things in the Li family's treasure trove. While thinking this, Li Yunyo Great Elder's hands did not stop moving. Liyun Bird Niche's Grand Elder handed Lin Yuan an atlas that was densely packed with all kinds of fays, spiritual materials, and source-type items. Liyun Avian Niche handed the atlas to Lin Yuan and said, "My lord, this atlas is all the Liyun Avian Niche's current collection. Liyun Avian Niche has been seeking development for a long time, so the collection might be lacking. Aurora Cloud Nest has been seeking development for a long time, so it might be lacking in terms of collection." Liyun Avian Niche had mentioned that a large part of the collection in the Liyun Avian Niche's treasure trove had been invested in the faction's construction. It was definitely not a lie. The Great Elder Liyun Nyotzon mentioned that a large portion of the Liyun Nyotzon treasury's collection had been invested into the construction of the faction. It was definitely not a lie. Otherwise, Liyun Avian Niche would not have needed to belittle Liyun Avian Niche's value during the transaction. This was not good for Liyun Avian Niche. But even so, Lin Yuan spent 5 minutes just flipping through the premium source-type items. This showed how rich the top faction's collection was. During the process, Lin Yuan's gaze paused for a moment on many items. There were many things that Lin Yuan felt were useful to him, but he did not intend to use law origin crystals to exchange for them. In the future, if the Li family did not have law origin crystals in the transaction with Liyun Avian Niche, he could use the upgraded Golden Lotus Brocade to exchange for these things. Therefore, Lin Yuan's eyes were mainly focused on the resources that he could not exchange for with the upgraded Golden Lotus Brocade. After Lin Yuan used this standard to flip through the atlas, his speed of flipping through the atlas became faster and faster. He did not even stop too much on the Myth 2 Law crystals. The Myth 2 Law crystals were good stuff, but if they could not reach the pinnacle of Myth 2, Lin Yuan would have to spend a lot of Law origin crystals to cultivate them. Including the Myth 3 Fierce Poison Law, he already had a total of 4 laws that needed to be cultivated. After the law could increase Lin Yuan's elemental immunity, the Cold Flame Law, which he had not paid attention to, became a good thing. The Frost Flame Law was a dual ice and fire law. It was a relatively unorthodox existence among the laws. However, just the Cold Flame Law alone could provide him with resistance to both ice and fire elements. He had already raised the priority of the Frost Flame Law and was ready to nurture it well. When Li Yunyo Grand Elder saw that Lin Yuan was flipping faster and faster, his heart became more and more uncertain. He was almost done flipping through this atlas. If Lin Yuan really didn't find anything he liked, it would be the same as the Li family losing 2 Myth 3 Fays. Without Emperor-class experts, Spirit Chi professionals with Myth 3 Fays would already be the pinnacle faction's high-end combat power. Liyun Avian Niche, who was seeking rapid development, naturally needed to steadily improve its strength while developing its business. Many of the Liyun Avian Niche's experts were stuck at the pinnacle of Myth 2. If they could not exchange for law crystals from Lin Yuan this time, it was destined that the Li family would never have a chance to exchange for law crystals from Lin Yuan in the future. When Lin Yuan flipped through the Liyun Avian Niche's unique resources, he found that the unique resources the Grand Elder was referring to were some eye-catching flying fays that had been specially nurtured. These flying fays had been promoted to Diamond X/Legend by the Li family, and any one of them could meet Lin Yuan's needs for flying fays. If it were in the past, Lin Yuan might have decided to exchange. However, he now had Blackie. After Blackie became a gold/fantasy breed, its speed was not much weaker than the platinum divine travel black swallow. It was enough to meet Lin Yuan's requirements. On the other hand, if Lin Yuan wanted to build a fey carriage, he did not need one or two eye-catching flying fays. However, if Lin Yuan were to take out 9 or 12 law crystals to exchange for 9 or 12 eye-catching flying fays, he felt that it was not necessary. He had pure spirit chi that even Class 5 creation masters could not concoct, so it was not difficult to nurture a new type of flying fey. Moreover, the flying fays that he induced with pure spirit chi would only be better than those cultivated by the Li Yun avian niche. Just as Lin Yuan was thinking that if there was really no other choice, he would let the Li family exchange a large number of law crystal fragments. Lin Yuan's gaze stopped on the last page of the atlas. When he saw the last page of this atlas, Lin Yuan's heart suddenly skipped a beat. If he could exchange for this from the Li Yun avian niche, then one of his previous ideas could go from fantasy to reality. It could also be said that it was equivalent to saving him decades of hard work. Lin Yuan pointed to an ordinary green grass with sawtooth-shaped leaves on the atlas and asked the Grand Elder, "Is the body supermemory grass child ramets marked on this atlas cultivated from the mother ramets? Is the body supermemory grass child ramets marked on this atlas cultivated from the mother ramets? How are the child ramets compared to the mother ramets? I saw that there are a total of 5 child ramets marked on the Li Yun avian niches atlas. I wonder how the Li family usually uses the body supermemory grass child ramets." The Grand Elder was stunned by Lin Yuan's 3 questions in a row. When Lin Yuan flipped to the last page, the Grand Elder's heart fell to the bottom of the valley and almost fell into despair. He did not expect Lin Yuan to be interested in this body supermemory grass. However, the Grand Elder was a little confused about Lin Yuan's intentions. He did not know if Lin Yuan was just asking casually or if he wanted to use law crystals to exchange for the body supermemory grass child ramets. If that was the case, it would be equivalent to Li Yun avian niche picking up a huge bargain. The body supermemory grass was the basis for the Li Yun avian niche to nurture flying fays and allow them to remember the route. However, the body supermemory grass in the Li family's treasury was all split from the mother ramets. Although it had the same effect as the mother ramets, it did not have the ability to split from the mother ramets. Therefore, by trading the body supermemory grass to Lin Yuan, Li Yun avian niche was basically equivalent to getting 2 law crystals for free. The Black-Cloud Bird Niche's Grand Elder cleared his throat and explained to Lin Yuan without hiding anything. The body supermemory grass child ramets are usually planted in a confined space. The body supermemory grass will emit a special fragrance. The muscles of living beings that smell this fragrance will enter a supermemory mode and be able to remember complex movements and routes. The first one was even better. End of this chapter. Chapter 800. He found that the data of the cat's eye stone on Wenyu's forehead under Morbius true data was Frowny Face Sacred Source Name, Celestial Body Council, Sacred Source Species, Origin Family/Sacred Source Species, Sacred Source Star Grade, 1 star, Sacred Source Type, Mystic Realm Function Astral Throne. In the process of the Celestial Assembly, the members of the Assembly sitting on the throne of the 12 major signs of the zodiac can interact with those sitting on the throne of the northern and southern constellations at the cost of will and rules. The Celestial Council was the second true sacred source life form that he had seen, apart from the sacred sword-wielding queen. However, the sacred sword-wielding queen was different from other sacred source life forms. The sacred source life form, sacred sword-wielding queen, was formed by the fusion of 2 sacred source life forms, the Grace Queen and the Sacred Punishment Sword. When he used Morbius true data to check the sacred sword-wielding queen, the sacred sword-wielding queen's sacred source system only showed 3 question marks. It was not like Wenyu's contracted sacred source life form, the Celestial Body Assembly, which was classified as a mystic realm. Lin Yuan could see that the Celestial Council's function was the Celestial Spirit Throne. He knew that the Celestial Council, a mystic realm's sacred source life form, could exchange resources with others in the council at the cost of rules and willpower. But what was the function of the Sacred Source Lifeform Conference? He did not know the difference between the 12 ecliptic constellation thrones and the northern and southern constellation thrones. In his opinion, this should be related to Morbius grade. When Lin Yuan woke up from his coma and found out that he had Morbius, he had been stunned for a long time. He could tell that Auntie Zhang's terror rabbit was a fantasy breed elemental creature in disguise. However, the normal I/normal Morbius was unable to view the fantasy breed terror rabbit's skills and exclusive skills. Now that Morbius was at bronze, he could check the Mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer's true data. This meant that as Morbius grade increased, it wasn't just the Spirit Lock spatial zone and Pure Land of Bliss that were changing. Even the true data of the skill was continuously increasing. Once Morbius became a fantasy breed and advanced to silver grade, Morbius would be able to use it. When he used Morbius' true data to check the sacred source life form, he should be able to find more information. At that moment, she opened her eyes and saw him staring at the cat's eye stone on her forehead. Wen Yu's face couldn't help but turn slightly red as she hurriedly said, "Young master, you can see that the cat's eye stone on my forehead isn't the sacred source life form, the celestial body assembly. It's a medium. The real celestial body council is a dream space that is connected to the stars." At this point, Wen Yu's expression turned awkward. Even he was a little confused by his own explanation. Lin Yuan probably wouldn't understand. However, his sacred source lifeform's function in the celestial body assembly was difficult to describe with words. Only by personally attending the celestial council would he be able to understand what was going on. At that moment, Wen Yu heard Lin Yuan ask while he was deep in thought, "I roughly know what's going on with the Celestial Body Council, but what's going on with the 12 ecliptic main constellation thrones and the northern and southern constellation thrones?" Lin Yuan's words startled Wen Yu. Wen Yu remembered that when she had just formed a contract with the Celestial Body Council, the Celestial Body Council had emitted its first cry. Even her master, Mystic Moon, had not been able to see what the Celestial Body Council's function was. However, Lin Yuan had asked about the Sacred Source Life Form, the Celestial Council's Star Spirit Chair. Wen Yu looked at Lin Yuan in shock. Could it be that Lin Yuan was looking at the cat's eye stone on her forehead to see the Sacred Source Lifeform's function? Wen Yu remembered that Mystic Moon had said that the Sacred Source Lifeform's function was every Spirit Chi professional's greatest trump card. Even if it was used, it would be difficult to find out what its specific function was. However, the Celestial Body Council's function had been seen through by Lin Yuan in just a few glances. In the mansion, only Lu Jia knew that Lin Yuan had formed a contract with the Sacred Source Life Form. The fewer people who knew, the better. Naturally, Lu Jia did not tell Wen Yu. When Wen Yu had accepted the Sacred Source Life Form from Mystic Moon, she had not wanted to form a contract with it. Mystic Moon had asked and found out that Wen Yu had wanted to leave the chance to form a contract with the Sacred Source Life Form to Lin Yuan. Mystic Moon did not know whether to laugh or cry. She then told Wen Yu that Lin Yuan had already formed a contract with the Sacred Source Life Form. Wen Yu then felt at ease and formed a contract with the Sacred Source Life Form that Mystic Moon had given her. Wen Yu could not help but wonder if the Sacred Source Life Form that Lin Yuan had formed a contract had the ability to see through directions. However, even if Lin Yuan's Sacred Source Life Form had the ability to see through directions, it would not have been possible when he had just activated the Celestial Body Council's function. He had been able to see through the Celestial Body Council's function. If it was someone else who had such an ability, Wen Yu might have paid more attention to them. However, this ability belonged to Lin Yuan, so Wen Yu naturally would not think about probing her young master's abilities. Furthermore, Mystic Moon had repeatedly reminded Wen Yu not to tell anyone about the Celestial Body Council's ability. Wen Yu still chose to tell Lin Yuan about the Celestial Body Council's ability as soon as she saw him. Wen Yu felt that the Sacred Source Lifeform's ability would be of great benefit to Sky City's development. When you still remembered that Mystic Moon had said that Lin Yuan planned to develop in the Divine Wood Federation through the space tunnel. Since Lin Yuan's ambition was in the outer realm, then the Celestial Body Council's Celestial Soul Throne could be used appropriately. He could use the Dream Realm as a guide to let Sky City blossom in the unknown vast land. When you answered Lin Yuan's question. Young Master, the Sacred Source Lifeform Celestial Body Council is now at the 1-star level. Given my soul power and spiritual energy, I can hold one every week. Why don't I hold a Celestial Body Council later? Young Master, come with me. I'll explain the difference between the 2 seats in the council. It just so happens that Young Master has formed a contract with one of the 12 ecliptic constellations' thrones. Lin Yuan's interest was immediately piqued. The first was even more interesting. End of this chapter. Chapter 801. In battle, Chu Ci would occasionally use her sword to block external attacks or attack her targets with her sword. However, since Lin Yuan wanted to use the muscle memory grass's roots, it was obviously not as simple as learning the foil sword. Although Lin Yuan had the memories of his previous life as a transmigrator, he was no different from the natives of this world. In the Radiance Continent's chronicles, humans had existed for nearly 200,000 years. 5,500 years ago, before Spirit Qi had appeared, humans had inherited many combat skills. These combat skills were the crystallization of human wisdom refined for nearly 200,000 years. However, after the Spirit Qi awakening, human Spirit Qi professionals had used contracted phase to fight, and those original combat skills had been put aside. In fact, many inherited combat skills had disappeared in time. However, from the 67th to the 82nd floor of the Radiant Moon Palace's Hidden Moon Pavilion, the entire 15 floors were martial knowledge related to combat skills. This knowledge was perfectly preserved in the Hidden Moon Pavilion, but almost no one would visit the Hidden Moon Pavilion's 67th to 82nd floors to study these martial arts skills. However, Lin Yuan was interested in these martial arts skills. If he could master these martial arts skills, it could be used as a powerful trump card when paired with the Spirit Essence Burst. The existence of this trump card greatly improved Lin Yuan's offense and defense. However, it was not so easy to learn the entire 15 floors of martial arts skills. Mastering the skills was a process of accumulation and tempering. After the combat skills were honed to a certain extent, the body's muscles would subconsciously react according to the external situation. To reach such a level, Lin Yuan would need to polish a combat skill for at least a decade. Now, he only needed 2 muscle-transcending memory grassroots, and he was confident that his body could master all 15 levels of combat techniques. At that time, Lin Yuan's muscles would firmly remember the entire 15 floors of combat skills, and his muscles would be able to choose the most ingenious way to counterattack or defend. Just as Lin Yuan was about to use 2 law origin crystals to exchange for 2 muscle memory grassroots, he heard Li Yun Avian Niche's elder say, "If you want a body memory transcending grass, we, the Dawn Cloud Avian Nest, can give you 2. I only hope that you can carry out this transaction with Li Yun Avian Niche." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan was slightly startled. He immediately understood that the child ramets of the muscle-transcending memory grass were not precious in the black cloud bird niche. It was just like how Jin Se could easily nurture the golden lotus brocade in his hand. Although Lin Yuan had originally planned to use 2 law origin crystals to exchange for 2 muscle memory grassroots, since Li Yun Avian Niche's elder had said so, it saved him the resources of 2 law origin crystals. However, Lin Yuan was also indebted to Li Yun Avian Niche. Lin Yuan threw the 2 law crystals to Li Yun Miao Can and said, "That's right. The muscle memory grass is of some use to me. I won't take your muscle memory grass for nothing. 2 of them can be considered as 1 rule crystal. As for the remaining law crystal, your Li clan can use law crystal fragments to exchange for it. As for how much, it's up to your Li clan. The next time we trade law origin crystals with the Li family, the price will be set according to the amount of law origin crystals you pay this time." Li Yun Avian Niche's elder was overjoyed. Judging from Lin Yuan's words, Li Yun Avian Niche would have a chance to trade Law Origin crystals with Lin Yuan later. This opportunity was simply too important for Li Yun Avian Niche. As for how many Law crystal fragments should be used to exchange for a Law crystal, Li Yunio's Grand Elder intended to bring it to the Li family's core meeting to discuss it. At the same time, he would also ask for Li Xian's opinion. Li Yun Avian Niche's biggest problem now was that he did not have an Emperor-class expert to oversee him. However, he had 4 Pinnacle Myth 3 experts. If he could trade some Law Origin crystals with Lin Yuan in the future, Li Yun Avian Niche would not have to worry about not having an Emperor-class expert to oversee him. With a Scale-class expert overseeing him, Li Yun Avian Niche could truly stand tall among the top factions. He did not need to clearly control a huge share of the flying-type Fey market but still be inferior in all aspects. With this thought, Li Yun Avian Niche became even more excited and decided to save the Law Origin crystals he had traded this time. He would no longer distribute them to Pinnacle Suzerain/Myth 2 Feys. Instead, he would wait until he had saved 10 pieces and let the Pinnacle Suzerain/Myth 3 Fey with the Phoenix species bloodline that the family head had contracted try to see if it could survive the creation calamity and become a creation breed Fey. Li Yun Avian Niche immediately expressed his stance. Don't worry, sir. The number of Law Origin crystal fragments that our Li family offers will definitely satisfy you. I'll get young Master Xian to send them to you. Li Xian's body trembled when he heard how the Grand Elder addressed him. In the past, the Grand Elder would address him by his name. When he was in a good mood, he would at most call him Xian. He had never called him young Master Xian. Now, the Grand Elder had vaguely recognized his status in the Li family and regarded him as a true young master of the younger generation. The Grand Elder was the second in command in Li Yun Avian Niche apart from his grandfather. With the Grand Elder's recognition of him, he was likely to be appointed as Li Yun Avian Niche's young family head after returning to the Li family. Li Xian looked at Lin Yuan with a deep gaze, his eyes filled with endless gratitude and sincerity. After Lin Yuan, Long Tu, and Li Yun Avian Niche's Grand Elder finished the transaction, Long Tu and Li Yun Avian Niche left. Lin Yuan, Long Tao, and Li Xian went to the Muxiang residence for a meal. During the meal, Lin Yuan found out that Long Tao and Li Xian had previously appeared at the Fey Observer Guild. It was because Black had rejected Long Tao's invitation, so he had decided to invite Li Xian, a support-type spirit chi professional, to join the Dragon Gate Guild Club's main team. Long Tao had originally planned to let Chen Hongfeng fill the main team's position. However, after Chen Hongfeng had been defeated by Chu Ci at the All-Star match, he had to train in the reserve team for a few more years and prepare to enter the main team after his strength had improved. This made Long Tao rack his brains for next year's All-Star match's main team members. After the meal, Lin Yuan returned to the mansion and saw that Duan he had escorted listened back. Upon seeing Lin Yuan, Listen hurriedly handed a diamond face storage box to Lin Yuan and said, "Young master, this is the proceeds from the auction." "Young master, these are the proceeds from the auction of the luxury items sold in the past week," Jiang Lushir said. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 802. Listen was still holding the diamond Fey storage box in his hand, and his heart still could not calm down for a long time. Over the past week, the income from the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's auction of luxury items had exceeded the cash flow of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce during its heyday in Indigo Azure City. Such a huge amount of wealth had been earned under his operation, which made Listen feel unreal. Lin Yuan took the diamond face storage box from Listen's hand and could not help but raise his eyebrows in surprise. In addition to the spirit craftsman resources in the engineering pavilion that Hu Quan controlled, Lin Yuan had invested in Listen with some completely jade-textured wood scraps that had been piled up as garbage in the storage room. Lin Yuan had also invested in Listen with high-stakes luxury goods. These high-end goods included a whole completely jade-textured wood board and heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls with pearls. However, Hu Quan did not feel at ease leaving these high-end luxury goods to the Class 3 spirit craftsmen under him to create. Hu Quan had been busy with the manor's hidden dragon lake and the underground space during this time and had not come up to create these high-end luxury goods. However, Listen had been using the waste in the return from faraway manor to create value. Looking at the mountain of radiance dollars in the diamond face storage box, Lin Yuan estimated that Listen had increased the premium of those luxury goods by at least 50%. This was Listen's superior talent and ability in business. Lin Yuan stretched out his hand and gave Listen a thumbs up. Listen, you're indeed a business genius. With the development of Sky City, Lin Yuan had become busier and busier. In the past, Lin Yuan would more or less pay attention to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's development, but he had now become a hands-off shopkeeper. Therefore, Lin Yuan had not made any suggestions on the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's development. However, during this time, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's development had far exceeded Lin Yuan's expectations at that time. Listen immediately became excited when he heard Lin Yuan's praise, and the fatigue between his eyebrows suddenly dissipated. It was replaced by enthusiasm and excitement. In the past 2 months, Listen had been working tirelessly and would never sleep for more than 5 hours each time. Lin Yuan had become enemies with the Jing family because of him, and he had even attracted the attack of 2 Emperor-class experts outside Indigo Azure City. Listen had always kept these things in mind and did not dare to forget for a moment. He did not have powerful strength, so all he could do was manage the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce well and create higher value for Lin Yuan. Now that Listen had handed in his first answer to Lin Yuan, he felt that everything he had done during this time was finally worth it. Immediately after, Listen found that Lin Yuan had handed the Diamond Fey storage box back to him. Developing a faction has never been about storing Radiance dollars in a Diamond Fey storage box. You can take the Radiance dollars you earned and use them as you wish. We previously agreed that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce would develop into a rising force within half a year, but I feel that you have the ability to build it into a business empire. They even used their own methods to monopolize a certain type of goods in the market. With Sky City supporting you, you don't have to worry about fighting. Whether the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce can occupy a place among the top 50 factions in terms of business will depend on your own development. After hearing Lin Yuan's words, Listen's eyes widened. He did not expect Lin Yuan to have such high expectations of him. In the face of Lin Yuan's expectations, Listen suddenly felt that he saw a wider, more exciting path ahead. In fact, Lin Yuan had said this to Listen because he felt that Listen had the ability. On the other hand, Lin Yuan had a feeling after hearing Elder Li Yun Avian Can mention the Li Yun Avian Can's development. Duan he stood beside Lin Yuan and looked at Lin Yuan's gaze, suddenly feeling that he admired Lin Yuan more and more. Duan he's admiration for Lin Yuan was not because of Lin Yuan's structure or because of his affirmation of his subordinates. It was because of the 40 hot spring snails that Lin Yuan had enhanced for the Indigo Azure Guard. Thanks to the Indigo Azure Guard captain's feedback, almost every hot spring snail's exclusive skill was extremely suitable for battlefield combat. When Lin Yuan had upgraded these hot spring snails from elite to epic, it was clear that when Lin Yuan had upgraded them, the quality of these hot spring snails had reached epic. This proved that Lin Yuan had a lamp in his heart that could light up radiance. As the Moon Empress disciple, it was Radiance's blessing to have such a lamp in his heart. Duan he firmly believed that this lamp in Lin Yuan's heart would also be able to emit dazzling radiance in the future. Duan he solemnly took out a platinum phase storage box and handed it to Lin Yuan. Young master, there are 500 hot spring snails and 1,500 law origin crystals in this phase storage box. The Indigo Azure Guard captain wants me to make another deal with you. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan immediately reached out and took the platinum phase storage box from Hu Quan's hand. No problem. The dimensional rift has also reached the finishing stage. This is the most dangerous time during the active period of the dimensional rift. I'll upgrade the hot spring snails as soon as possible so that they can appear on the battlefield at this dangerous time. Although the hot spring snail's external healing effect is strong, they are lacking in vitality replenishment. In this deal, I'm going to provide Indigo Azure City with an additional 30 bronze/epic jasmine lilies to match with the hot spring snails and replenish the vitality of the supported Indigo Azure guards. It was getting easier and easier for Lin Yuan to nurture high-quality bronze fays. However, now that he had the Golden Lotus Brocade, Lin Yuan was less and less dependent on nurturing high-quality bronze fays in exchange for Law Origin crystals. Lin Yuan only needed to take out 50 Golden Lotus Brocade to exchange for 1,500 Law Origin crystals. 50 Golden Lotus Brocade was only the work of the Golden Lotus Brocade. Even if Lin Yuan was now a B-rank Spirit Chi professional, it would still take him nearly 4 years to enhance 500 bronze/epic fays. However, as long as there were orders like the hot spring snails from the Indigo Azure guards, Lin Yuan would not reject them. This was because Lin Yuan knew that the fays he worked overtime to enhance would eventually transform into fresh Indigo Azure guards' lives. While he was nurturing fays to earn resources, he was also redeeming one life after another that he had protected. As for the 30 pots of bronze/epic jasmine lilies, it was Lin Yuan's sincerity in addition to the deal. He hoped that in the face of disaster, those who had become great because of their protection could be safe and sound and live a carefree life. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 803. When Duan he heard Lin Yuan's words, even though he was an Emperor-class expert, his eyes could not help but turn hot. Duan he was an Indigo Azure native, born in Indigo Azure City, and also a Radiance native. However, he still found it hard to imagine that Lin Yuan would actually be willing to give 30 bronze/epic jasmine lilies to Indigo Azure City for free to help it resist the dimensional rift. 30 bronze/epic jasmine lilies were not a small fortune. If it was calculated according to Radiance dollars, Lin Yuan had provided at least 1.2 billion Radiance dollars to Indigo Azure City this time. Lin Yuan returned to his room with the platinum phase storage box that contained 500 hot spring snails and prepared to enter the Spirit Lock spatial zone to enhance this batch of hot spring snails. However, just as he entered the Spirit Lock spatial zone, he remembered that he still had something important to do. It was to talk to Chimey about the sparrow-voiced lowly goddess. Lin Yuan had never realized that Chimey, which was always by his side, actually had such ideas. It had actually started live streaming in the Xia region store. When Chimey had just started live streaming, Lin Yuan remembered that he had only given Genius and Chimey Star web cards a few days ago. It was not easy to open a live streaming room on Star Web, and Chimey definitely could not have done it with its intelligence at that time. In other words, Genius must have helped Chimey become the sparrow voice lowly goddess and keep live streaming on Star Web. Now, Lin Yuan seemed to suddenly understand why Chimey and Genius were always together mysteriously. Even in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, they would always go to the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's treetop. Chimey and Genius must be together to study about Star Web live streaming. As soon as Lin Yuan entered the Spirit Lock spatial zone, he found the Wind Speed Rapid Antelope tidying up the Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearls that the elemental shellfish had spat out. In the process of Lin Yuan feeding it a Wind Elemental Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearl every 2 days, the Wind Speed Rapid Antelope's strength had unknowingly increased from Gold I to Gold 7. Its quality had also increased from Flawless to Legend. After being baptized by pure wind elements and nourished by pure spirit chi day and night, the Wind Speed Rapid Antelope's fur had continuously transformed from khaki to white. Many cyan patterns that were similar to those on the Celestine elemental shellfish appeared on the Wind Speed Rapid Antelope's increasingly milky fur. These cyan patterns were none other than the elemental symbols formed when the wind elements were extremely rich. The Wind Speed Rapid Antelope had been rescued by Lin Yuan from a critical state, and it had been reborn. The Wind Speed Rapid Antelope, which originally had no horns, now had 2 small round bumps on both sides of its forehead. They felt like 2 bony protrusions. Lin Yuan knew that this was a sign that the Wind Speed Rapid Antelope's degraded horns were about to grow out again. When the Wind Speed Rapid Antelope grew its horns, its genetic model would undergo a transformation. By then, the Wind Speed Rapid Antelope would evolve into a brand new Fae. The spirit E, the demon the rapid antelope had said, no, the demon. The Ling, the Fang's section sect. Now, the wind speed rapid antelope's intelligence was no longer that of a child's. Instead, it was that of a 13 or 14-year-old teenager. Lin Yuan knew to say Lin's to the spirit. The Ling's spirit now, he was, and had. Wind Ling, spirit Azure City is Yuan, to know. Ling rapid spirit to Azure was. Lin Yuan rubbed the wind speed rapid antelope's head and fed it 2 wind-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls to it. Since the wind speed rapid antelope was so talented in the use of the wind elements, Lin Yuan might as well nurture it. After some consideration, Lin Yuan said to the wind speed rapid antelope, after you complete your evolution, I will give you a name that belongs to you. After you complete your evolution, I will give you a name that belongs to you. During this period of time, as long as you feel that the wind elemental pearls in your body have been completely digested, you can pick them from the box. The wind speed rapid antelope was elated. However, when it thought of the 2 protrusions on its forehead, it didn't use the side of its head to rub Lin Yuan's leg. Instead, it stuck out its tongue and licked Lin Yuan's palm. Inside the spirit lock spatial zone, Silver Flower, Jean Sei, and Princess were busy. However, Jean Sei was busy nurturing the golden lotus brocade's child plants. Silver Flower and Princess were busy absorbing the insect pattern coral jade, while the other was busy absorbing the law origin crystal. It had been nearly 5 minutes since Lin Yuan entered the spirit lock spatial zone, but Chimey and Genius didn't notice his arrival at all. Based on Chimey's current situation of live streaming for 4 to 5 hours every day, Chimey must have known about the incident of the gift dropping. Lin Yuan recalled the information on the sparrow voice lowly goddess that when you had given him about the top 100 rewards that had surprised him. Excluding the portion deducted from Star Web, all of Chimey's rewards added up to at least 400 million radiance dollars. Lin Yuan had just provided 30 pots of bronze/epic jasmine lilies to Indigo Azure City for free, and the market price of healing type phase was slightly higher. 30 bronze/epic jasmine lilies could easily be sold for 1.2 billion radiance dollars. Compared to the 1.2 billion radiance dollars that Lin Yuan had just casually given, the 400 million radiance dollars that Chimey had earned from live streaming was not considered a lot. However, this also depended on how it was compared. If it had been a year ago in the Xia region, Chimey's 400 million radiance dollars would probably have been enough to buy the entire Xia region. For live streaming income, 400 million radiance dollars was a huge sum. Chimey had always been by his side, and he had provided Chimey with the best things. It ate platinum celery vines and lived in the heaven and earth fey phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. It could be said that Chimey did not need to think about money at all. Therefore, Lin Yuan was really afraid that Chimey would use the 400 million radiance dollars to study on Star Web. Lin Yuan circulated his spiritual power, and thousands of black feathers seeped out of the amber button-shaped source sand. These feathers combined to form 6 black wings on Lin Yuan's back. Lin Yuan gently flapped his wings and immediately appeared at the treetop of the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. When he reached the treetop, he heard Genius whispering, "Chimey must tell Lin Yuan about this now. Chimey must tell Lin Yuan about this now." Because of Lin Yuan's identity as black, Chimey has been greatly affected. As long as Chimey speaks the truth, Lin Yuan will not blame Chimey. Lin Yuan was relieved to hear that. Genius and Chimey were not just contract partners to Lin Yuan. They were actually like children that he had watched grow up. It seemed that Genius was at least sensible. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard Chimey's voice. After hearing Chimey's words, Lin Yuan was stunned. Second, even more. End of this chapter. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.